Awesome. Here we are, lunch day, Shelly. So
Woo!
excited. Let's do it.
All right.
Finally, this book has been in the works. Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. It's been in the works for quite a while, longer than I like it to be. But, hey, that's the way things happen. And, we just roll with it, right? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'm excited about this book in particular because, talking about stepping up and speaking out, this is something that means something different for everybody. And, I'm curious to hear what it means for all the authors we're going to share with you today here at Action Takers Publishing. The book is already a bestseller, but we're shooting for #1 bestseller today. So if you will go to actiontakerspublishing.com. Oh, I forgot to create a banner for it. Hold on. actiontakerspublishing.com/step up. You can get not only a copy of the book, you get a Kindle version of the book for only $1.99, but also there are a lot of free gifts there that the authors are giving away. So go cash in on those offers. As well, when you land there, depending on which country you're in, you'll see a flag, and the flags relate to the different countries that the book is being sold in. So click on that flag and go buy the book in whatever country you are in. So thanks everybody for being here. Thank you, Shelly, for being here. Excited to hear about your chapter, which is called From Surviving to Thriving. So I want to hear about your chapter, what it's all about, how it came to be. And, I'm just going to give you the floor and tell us, first of all, how'd you come up with this title?
Well, the title is very much just my personal experience. I've been, for a little bit of history, I have been a caregiver for over 26 some years. When my son was 8.5, he had an onset of an illness that actually caused his ability to walk, talk, use his hands, all of that. It was this like intense storm that hit our life. And it's interesting because the way I approached that said storm was with the intensity of a storm chaser. It was my mission in life to find a way to fix it. Any other fixers out there, like as moms, but as people, sometimes we're control freaks and we try to fix things. So that was my way of coping with the onset of this illness, this movement disorder. What I found over time, you fast forward through the years of trying to do all the things to cope and to fix, and you're grieving, and all the things that special needs moms deal with throughout the years. And when you realize that you have zero control and are unable to fix this, you kind of go back and look at, okay, what was I doing and how did I get here? Because what I woke up one day was I felt stuck, and I realized that I was merely surviving my life. And that was just about 5.5 years ago. So, I said I was a caregiver for 26 plus years. So that's a lot of years of coping and realizing one day that you're literally surviving your life. And at that point, I was 56 years old. I'm 61, going on 62 now. Big wake up call. My midlife crisis was a little bit different than a lot of people's. And so I moved into this place of having to really own some things and some ways that I'd found myself coping. There's about 43.5 million caregivers that have cared for unpaid caregivers for the last year. I'm guessing that there are a lot of people who can relate with how you find yourself just surviving. And I mean, you've probably felt it too. We all do it in careers that are going nowhere, in all the different things, right? We're chronic illness that we're facing. There's a lot of reasons that bring us to a place of stuckness and surviving. And what my story is how did when I woke up to that place of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's where I moved into a place where I could start thriving. And I had to learn, what was I doing what was happening? Was life happening to me or for me? Because I had a choice. We all do, on how we face the storms of life. And so that's really what my story is about, is like that wake up call where I'm like, okay, my circumstances are literally outside of my control. And no matter what I do, and no matter how I try to numb it, no matter how I try to cope with it, it's not working. Then what do you do? Then what do you do? And
Yeah.
where I was at. So give you a little history. Sorry, I was
Yeah.
rambling.
No, no worries. No worries at all. This is your show, girl. This is your show. So I'm curious, the word thriving, because the title of your chapter again is From Surviving to Thriving. And the experiences that you've gone through in the book, you also relate it to, the survival to a moment when you were in Hawaii with your husband. Like, that's how your chapter starts off, and
Yeah.
talking about various things related to storms. And first of all, I'm curious on that, like, what made you decide to associate the life journey that you've been on to storms? Because you mentioned storm chaser, you mentioned a storm inside of your
Yeah.
chapter. And so how did you come on storms? Like, are you big into
That's
weather,
a
or?
Well, no, that's a great question, actually. And it's actually tied to the generalized dystonia. And a lot of time it's a movement disorder. And my son will sometimes have what we call a neuromuscular storm, where his movements are so intensified. I mean, he's always known to have torsion movements, and it's kind of, we call it an electrical problem, where you have the brain sends this chemical when you're trying to do something with your arm. One muscle contracts, one relaxes, and there is a chemical that's released in the body, a neurotransmitter that is the thing that kind of does its thing. Well, his is messed up. It is basically what happens. And so the harder he tries to do things, the worse it gets. But there's times when it's intensified to where we call it a neurostorm.
Mm,
And it's the contractions and things are so out of control that it takes a lot of medication to kind of get that to relax, and there's pain. So that's why the storm kind of came in, because we say, oh, AJ storming. um,
mm.
and it's what's happening is in his body is so intense and out of control that he has no control. And I think when you're in a storm and you're in turbulent weather, and the reason I started the book with that was we were in this bay and I was learning how to snorkel, and I'm really a klutz. And anyway, so I was hyperventilating, doing all the things, trying to learn how to breathe with all this equipment on. And once I finally got a hang of it, because I'm one of those driven individuals, like, dang it, I'm going to get the hang of this, and I want to have fun, I want to do this. So anyway, we're in this moment in paradise, literally, and we're looking at all the fish and we're swimming along, and I got the hang of it, and we were enjoying it. And then I happened to look up to kind of right myself to the shore, and I realized we were being pulled out and we were caught in a rip current. And that's really what happens sometimes, is it comes unexpectedly, this storm in AJ's body, but this was an unexpected thing. And a lot of times what happens is we have knowledge of what to do, but in the middle of the storm, we literally go brain dead or something. Like, we respond in a way that all knowledge is gone, and we react. And a lot of people are reactive. They're living in a reactive state in their lives. And we don't necessarily pause a moment and respond with the knowledge that we already have, right? We just react. It's the knee jerk. And I think that's what happens a lot of times in storms, is we get reactive. And so that's kind of, a long answer to why storms, but I think they really kind of picture, and some storms come on like, boom, no warning, and then others, you have a little bit of projection of what's going to happen. But either way, you are left trying to deal with the storm amidst it, but also the aftermath. And so, yeah.
Yeah, there was something you mentioned, in your chapter about that you had years of training as a lifeguard, but even though this, like, you knew what to do, because you're talking about reactionary right now, and I'm just thinking about a lot of the different types of jobs that are out there. I'm not going to mention any types or anything like that because I don't want any controversy today, but there's several types of jobs out there where it has to be reactionary based on the type of work, and all the training, like you mentioned in your chapter, like the training basically went out the window because even as a trained lifeguard, you panicked. And so that kind of panic can seep in at any time for anything that we're doing in life, no matter how well trained we are. Like the training maybe helps us to not panic as much as someone else might, but you still panicked in that moment. And so you're thinking about life and storms in life, the various storms that we do encounter throughout our lives, whatever those storms are, is like, how do we make it through those? And how do you, Shelley, how do you get to the eye of the storm and then, come out of it, thriving instead of just surviving?
Well, I think one of the things that I'm learning is, well, we're emotional beings. I mean, we are, and they're a God-given thing. They actually make life meaningful, right? I mean, if we were flat, it would be difficult. But I think what happens is when we react, when we don't pause for just a moment and go, okay, what's happening? Why is it happening? How can I respond? And I know that, you talked about different professions, there's training and things that go on. Trained as a lifeguard, you're trained for different things. But when you're emotionally invested in whatever it is, you can't separate the emotion from the thing. And so, but there are ways in which we can learn to respond with emotion, but not just so reactive. And I think that comes with awareness. And when you're in that kind of a moment where I was like, I lost sight of things, and it took an outside force, it took my husband to say, whoa, we go with the current, like, no, you're not going over to the rocks. You're going this way. So it takes a disruption. And sometimes that's an internal thing where we have to go, okay, whoa, I'm in this moment. Now what? That disruption. And I think that's what I'm learning over the years is how do I disrupt that and face the storms? And I think it's practicing the pause is one of the things that I've learned is you have to practice the pause. And it's that immediate thing because you can't stop that wave. You can't. It's an emotional, it's actually our body's built-in way to respond. The fight flight, I mean, there is a protective response there. But I think what happens when we live in that reactive state, we actually become a victim in a sense. And so it's really hard to face those storms because the waves are hitting you and you're just like taking them and you're just like, and it's really, you're going under because you're just, and then that storm becomes the villain, and you're just like sitting there being pummeled by it. Woe is me, and I think I lived there unaware of it for a long time, even though because busyness became one of my coping mechanisms, numbing, with my drug of choice was food. And so those were ways that I found to cope with the onslaught of things. And I don't recommend them, you know,
Right.
because what happens is statistically, I mean, obesity is on the rise. I mean, anytime you've got a caregiver who's been caring for a loved one uh, for long periods of time, even short periods of time, stress, hypertension, all of these things are there. The problem is I wasn't pausing to care for me. So I was, balls to the wall, pardon me, but that's, I am going to get through this. And that, I think that's, I mean, you think of like buffalo, they go into a storm. They don't pull back, they go in, right? Eagles, they fly and soar above it, right? Like there's ways of dealing with storms. It's not that you're ignoring the storm. And that was where I was trying to do. I was trying to escape the storm instead of responding in a way that was healthy. Is that
Thanks for sharing that, because I have my own system that I created to break through those, or to make it through those much more smoothly, I guess is really what it is. Like you mentioned, I didn't know that buffalo head into the storm. I didn't know that. It's kind of a little crazy if you ask me, but that's an instinct for them, right? That's their instinct. So if we as human beings could create that as our own instinct, because we can change the way we think and do things, our reactions. And so I created I'm just going to share my little system that I created. It's Alta, ALTA. And now the A stands for alto, which in Spanish means stop. The reason I didn't say SLTA is because that spells slutta. So that's not as cool as alta, right? And so the A is, alto, stop. So when you're recognizing, and this is that thing, that awareness, I have awareness now, I have awareness. How now, brown cow, I have awareness now, it's time for me to move on, like Donkey Kong. I just knew I had to put that in today somewhere. But it's that having awareness, because once we have awareness is when we can effect change. Until we have awareness, we don't realize like what's going on. So you have that awareness that, oh my gosh, I'm in a storm right now. A lot of times that shows itself as overwhelm. Like I have too many things to do, not enough time to do it. That could be like something that you're saying, right?
Yes,
And like, I'm so busy, I'm too busy. I'm like, these are different phrases that we use when we're in a state of overwhelm. So now that I have awareness, I can listen to myself and say, okay, what's the next thing I need to do? When the listen is the L. So that's that, I need to stop first, and then I need to listen. Now I listen to myself and figure out like what's going on. And I listen to others and I ask them for opinions, like what's the next step I should take? Because maybe I'm stuck in overwhelm because of where I am and I don't know what to do. A lot of times that is causing overwhelm as well. And then the next one is to think. Now I think about what I heard from myself, and I think about what I heard from others. And then I evaluate and I say, okay, now what should I do? What is the next thing I'm going to do? And then I act on it. So what this has done is it slowed our brain down, because when we're in a reactionary state of mind, we're reacting without thought. But when we're a responsive state of mind, it's because we've had thought. You mentioned responding and reacting as well. And so it's going into that space where, okay, I'm going to respond to what's happening because now I've had thought. And so this is one thing I love to talk about, because I spent so many decades in that state of overwhelm, really because I didn't have a system to slow down and to speed up. Like my mom always said, you got to slow down to speed up, Linda. And I was like, no, I got to go faster. I got to go faster. That doesn't work, right?
That is so good, because I love that, because we use, in our coaching, we use stop, challenge, choose. And it's the same sort of principles, right? Because you need to stop. And then the thinking, so much, even in my physical health journey, right? It's about the mindset behind, how I'm thinking, how I'm approaching, whatever it is, AJ's disability, what I stick in my mouth. I mean, it's that stopping, and then the thoughts, right? You're listening, what's happening. You're also taking advice, right? Wise counsel.
Yep. Yeah.
sometimes. We have to process it. I'm a woman of prayer. I have to pray about it. But at the same time, it's listening. It's listening to me. It's actually listening to your physical body too. There's something happening that you need to pay attention
Yeah.
to, and so it's listening, and then it's minding the mind. Our thoughts, they actually trigger our actions, for good or for bad, right? For good or for bad. And so I love that. I love the alto. I've been in Costa Rica, and yeah, that's an
Yeah.
option. I remember asking, is the stop sign optional? I see the alto, whatever that is. I see the signs, but I see you're not stopping. Like, is it optional? Because we call that a yield. But anyway,
That's funny.
when you said that, I just thought of that.
Yeah, I love how because we create different acronyms that it works for us, right? As long as it works, and that's the key, is as long as it works. And having that awareness is that first piece. Like I have awareness nowadays. I do listen to my body. It's like, okay, something's going on inside of my body. I got to figure out what's going on, because that's going to point me in the right direction of where I need to go. And so I love, Kimberly put, disruption prompts progress. If you reflect by practicing the pause instead of reacting. Yeah. And it really is that pause you mentioned. So Shelly, I want you to share with us, like, because we hear these phrases like the pause, and share with us, like, what does that mean to you? Because it would mean something different to me probably than it means to you. So share with us, like, what is the pause? What does that mean?
Well, it's similar to what you were just talking about. For me, when you are dealing every day, there's so many unknowns, in our life, and with AJ's disease, there's just a lot of unknowns. And so for me, you have to pause. I mean, he's got some, reflux stuff and whatnot. So we have to watch him, because, all of a sudden he might, like, throw up or something, um, you know, that wouldn't be a moment I'd want to pause. That's a moment we kind of laugh, that we run, get whatever we need to try to save ourselves a lot of work later. But generally speaking, pause to me just means taking that moment and reflecting on what it is that's going on, and what response am I going to choose? Am I going to choose to wallow? And trust me, I have. Have I sat in a ditch? That's surviving. I've sat in the ditch. I've rearranged the furniture and tried to make the ditch look nicer,
Right.
by rearranging it. But nonetheless, I sat in the ditch. Or that pause could actually stimulate some sort of action. And that's literally what I did. When I woke up that day, I'm like, okay, you can go for the whole big picture, like, oh my God, my life's a wreck. That's overwhelm, and that is the wallow, right? But I had to wake up and go, okay, yeah, a lot of things are out of order for me. I was isolated. I was lonely. I'd lost a lot of my friend network, because I was more of a shut-in because of his physical needs and stuff. And I could sit there, and I did for a long time, and I ate my way through it. But I woke up and I said, this is not how I want to live my life. This doesn't feel good. I don't like it. That was my pause moment. And now it's like, okay, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And, that's the part where people go, okay, and then they just get these grandiose plans, and they like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. I had to look at it and go, no, one thing I know I can control what I put in my mouth. Physically, I was 50 pounds overweight. I was miserable. I knew that probably was adding to some of the things. So that was something I could do. So I found something, thank God it was a good fit. It addressed a lot of other areas, the mindset pieces and things. So I spent that, first amount of time just honing in on a simple structure I could follow that wouldn't add to overwhelm, because there's a lot of weight loss things that I tried, trust me, I tried them all, that actually created overwhelm in an already stressful thing. So this was easy. Eat the food, drink the water, lose the weight. Okay, I can do that. And what it did was it opened my eyes to a lot of other areas, because I started seeing habits. I started seeing mindsets. I started seeing things that I had developed, because honestly, I was living in a perpetual place of grief. If you've ever walked through grief, there's stages of grief, denial, right? And ultimately you get to this place of acceptance and doing and taking some degree of action, because it's not a place that you can live for long periods of time and thrive, right? You don't flourish there.
Right. Yeah, it's like I don't know, I like to say, shoveling shit against the tide, kind of thing, right? It's what's interesting is that piece of the wallowing. One thing I realized is that I can control the amount of time I wallow. See, I used to wallow in things for sometimes a day, a week, 2 weeks, couple months. I used to do that, but I decided one day several years ago, I was like, from now on, I just need to pout for 5 minutes. And so sometimes I'll tell my husband, like, if I'm, you know how a lot of times you'll tell somebody something and then there they are trying to fix you. I'm like, I don't need you to fix me right now. Like, I just need to pout for 5 minutes. So give me 5 minutes. And what that's done for me is and some people might, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything. And some people might say, you need to experience it longer. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but F that. I'm not going to sit and experience something longer that I don't feel I need to. And so for me, it has helped me to make it through those times a lot faster. And that works for me. It works great for me. I'm not suppressing anything. I'm literally sitting there and pouting for that 5 minutes or I'm going to bawl, like, what do you call it? Ugly cry or whatever it is. But I give myself a time limit, because I don't feel like I need to spend months anymore doing that, or years doing that anymore. So I'm curious, like, what's your thought on that? Like
no, I agree. I might give myself more than 5 minutes. It depends on what the thing is, right? Like, there are some, but feeling the feels, I think, is so important. Because what I did was, I lived in that denial, like, I didn't want to feel it. So, and I think Brene Brown talks about, if you numb, the feelings that are uncomfortable, that you don't want to feel. Like, I was afraid to feel some of that, because I thought I'd get stuck there. Not realizing I was already stuck. But so I was numbing and suppressing it. Well, when you suppress the things you don't want to feel, guess what you're also doing? You're numbing the stuff you do want. Like, you start to be kind of flat affect. So I think you have to feel the feels and let yourself go there.
Well, I want to say something though, before you continue there, is that when I say the 5 minutes to pout, this isn't, I'm not talking about grief or anything. I'm talking about these are things that are things that I used to, like, even just somebody saying something mean to me. I would hold on to that as truth for so long. And so now, again, I'll just
put it on and wear it, like, we put this stuff on and wear it. I used to do that too. People say stupid things sometimes, like, I
do myself. I say stupid things all the time.
Yeah, we all do. So do I. But then we sometimes wear it, and it does become truth, and it actually becomes part of our identity and stuff. And so, but I think letting yourself feel it instead of trying to dismiss it is actually healthy. What am I feeling? It's recognizing that, but it's not living in a state of default all the time. I think it's like you are feeling it and you're rebooting.
Rebooting. Oh, that's good.
Then you're like, okay. And so sometimes we need to do that. And I think we have to have a rhythm in our life where we're on a more regular basis. You do it throughout the day, but then there's times when you just get away for a day or an afternoon. You know, I know caregivers really struggle with that. I had to learn how to be okay with someone caring for AJ not the same as I do. That is a
Mm,
big deal. Trust. I have a lot of trust issues from my
yeah.
background as a child of the last book I shared, some of my, stemming some of my trust issues. But we had to learn that that's part of caring for me and getting away. And so I think you have rhythms too, where you actually look a little bit deeper, at those thoughts, those feelings, and how they're impacting your life. Right. And so, yeah, that was part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's barking time over here at my house. He howls. My dog, he howls. I think he thinks he's a wolf. So, Arlen, thank you so much for being here today. Saying love everything about this. And then Kimberly also mentioned the Alta, which is to alto stop, having awareness to effect change. Plus, listen, think, and before you take action. We're talking about the book Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. The book is a best-selling book already, which we're so excited about that. We're shooting for that #1 spot. So please go to actiontakerspublishing.com/step up and just buy a Kindle version while you're over there. And also, while you're over there, you'll see a bunch of free gifts from our authors. Go cash in on those free gifts. They're absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. And so, Shelley, we're going to take a little break here, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds. Ooh, I just love that commercial.
I did too. I'm like, that's so great.
It's so fun. The cheetah jumping out of the book, that was my brainchild. It's a lot of fun to put these things together. So we are talking about this book, Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. Get your copy today. These are incredible stories from men and women who have gone through different challenges in their lives, and then they had decided to step up and speak out about their story, whatever it is that they've all gone through. So everybody goes through something different. Every single person on the planet has a story to tell. You might have 50, 60, 70 stories to tell, but every single one of us has a story. And I want to ask you, Shelley, when you first, started, writing your chapter for this book and the other books that you've done, why don't you share with us, like, what did that feel like to go ahead and start putting your story out on paper? Was there anything that you experienced during that journey of telling your story, for a book? Because I'll share my story in a minute. But was there anything that you experienced that was like, okay, I did not expect that?
Well, I think of back, one, it's a healing. It really is a healing journey. When you pause and you look back and you see, wow, then there's times where you're in envy. You wish you would have moved through it a little bit faster. Like, wow, it took me that long to have these epiphanies. But I think there's sometimes we underestimate the power of our story. And I remember people always telling me, you really need to share your story. You really need to share your story. And of course, we all have our excuses, right? Like, with all my free time, I'm going to share my story. But I realized I was journaling a lot. That was one of my outlets. So really, honestly, this was one of those. It was just an extension of my journal. And I also realized, I put a lot of undue stress on myself, get the words just right, all the other things. But generally, once I let go of that stuff, right, and I just sat and shared our story, yeah, it was very refreshing, and very healing, and honestly, very freeing, because I'm like, wow, This, and I thought of the person like me that needs the encouragement.
Mm.
So I was writing it for her. I was writing it as the person I am now, remembering the person I was then. I get emotional because I think there's so many people stuck in these places for different reasons, not same as mine. But I thought if I could just, because that's what encouragement is. It's taking, someone else by the arm and go, I get it. I get it. Can I give you a hand up out of that ditch? Come on. That coming alongside that other person. And so that was part of that journey of writing, was to realize that what a beautiful opportunity to just come alongside even just the one. So I started stop trying to write for people and just write for the one person that needed to hear there's hope. There's hope.
And when you were writing for that one person, did you have somebody in mind, or was it just kind of like a fictional person that you were writing for?
Images would come to mind of people, moms that I know, people, when you become the older woman, the younger women who, first get a diagnosis with this child or whatever, you become the older woman. So there were pictures of some of the younger women that I knew, but also there was that image of me that I wished and it wasn't that it was like I wish somebody would have told me that stuff. No, I don't, but it was, I had me, the old me in mind, because the new version of me wanted to say, you're going to be okay.
Mhm.
You're going to come out on the other side of this and you're going to be so much stronger. And what you thought was an obstacle that was taking you out of, the work that my home had become a tomb at one point. And I had an
Mm.
incredible family and stuff, but I was stuck. It's a dark place. And so I was wanted to tell that person, there is hope. Like, storms don't last forever. The sun does come out. And it brings with it beautiful flowers, incredible fruit, incredible foliage. Sometimes things look so green after a storm. I was talking to her, who is
Mm.
in that place, saying, let's take another step. Let's take another step. If I can empower you to take the next step, we're going to go somewhere.
Yeah, I love that. So true. Because really all we need to do is take that next step. And sometimes we don't need to know the actual full path, because sometimes that can cause, again, a little bit of stress or overwhelm. And then having a person, like you, to guide them through that is really helpful. Like you talked a little bit earlier about, like having a coach, somebody who's there, like a mentor, somebody who is guiding you, somebody who's been there, done that. And it doesn't make it always easier, but at least we know we have somebody. Sometimes that's all we need, is just knowing we have somebody in our corner. Whether we tap into them or not is irregardless. It's just knowing that we do have that person to lean on is sometimes what's helpful. Can you remind us again, what is the name of the I'm not sure what to call it, but what that your son has? Because you mentioned neuromuscular storm, but what is it called?
It's called generalized dystonia. It's a secondary form of, it's a movement disorder, but it's called generalized dystonia. There's a lot of different forms of dystonia, but it's fairly rare.
Fairly rare. Okay. And how would somebody know if that's something that they should have their doctor look at it? Because if it's something rare, a doctor's first thought is probably not to go there. So how would somebody know if that's something they should, at least ask their doctor to look at?
Well, in his case, like it was a sudden onset. There's forms of this where there's a blood test. I think if you're having uncontrollable muscle contractions and there's pain associated with it, I know
Mm.
there's a form of dystonia that's writer's cramp, like it,
Oh,
musicians sometimes can get a form of it. There's some where it's the neck, you get these out of control torsion. Um, but in his case, like some of the unusual movement patterns that you literally can't control, it's not a nervous tick. um, you know, and those would be things that I think would be worth going to a physician and honestly advocate for advocate. I mean, and just, for me, I was advocating, but I like got almost obsessive, but
right.
that.
There was no stopping you though, right? There was.
No, like I said, I was an occupational therapist, so I had some background.
Mhm.
And honestly, you're right. You get just enough information to take the next step. I mean, if somebody had told me when he first had the onset of this disease that 26 plus years later we'd still be, I mean, quite honestly, yeah, I would have checked out. Like, you know
Yeah.
it would have been too much for me to envision that at that time. So good
Yeah, yeah,
question.
definitely. Definitely. We're talking to Shelley Snitko regarding the book Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. Her chapter is titled From Surviving to Thriving. You got to get a copy of the book to read her whole story. This is actually just part of her story because she has a multitude of stories, of course, but this is just like one of the short snippets of her story. So go get the copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/step up. And Shelley, I'm curious, like about this particular book, writing your chapter in this book, what was your like? Were there any like epiphanies, ahas? You did mention about how basically it was like this cathartic experience you were writing for that person, and so was there anything as far as like writing your chapter here that your own life where you're like, wow, I'm so glad I wrote this because was there anything like that happened?
um you know yeah, I guess in a way it solidified the plan and the purpose and the mission of what I feel like God put on my heart and mind to do. And so I guess it was empowering to me, the whole purpose, it says empowering stories, to help
Yeah.
change a life tomorrow. Um, but what's interesting is the first person empowered is you.
Hmm.
And then, that's the person that's empowered first, and that's where the change happens first. And so it sort of just sealed the deal, like for me, like this is exactly the direction I'm supposed to be going. And so it was very empowering for me.
Yeah, I agree on that. Even just for me, because I do have a chapter in this book as well,
Yeah.
but just coming up with a chapter title like that right there, because I'm the type that I come up with titles first and then I write based on that. I know a lot of people do it the other way around, but for me to come up with a chapter title is a piece of that empowerment. Like what am I going to share during about this particular journey that's going to be something that's going to talk about the stepping up and speaking out aspect of it, right? So it's just like looking at the like, what is the book about? What's the premise of it? What's the message that the book has to get out there? How can my story impact that? How can my story move through that? How can my story
Mhm.
provide that value for the reader? And so right there is that first piece of empowerment that I'm going to take part in something like this that is going to empower others. And so, that right there, like you mentioned, that first piece is empowering yourself to even write the story, I guess would be like that first piece, right?
Well, yeah, and first, and even realizing that your story is value. I think that's the first thing is, oh, actually people do need to hear. We all have stories to share that are of incredible value, but we sometimes so devalue ourselves
Yeah.
that we then don't share. But I think, yeah, it's definitely was it's a journey I recommend for anybody. I'm constantly sharing that. I know in the last book we wrote, and people who did share that I personally know, it was very healing for them and
Mhm.
empowering, and you can see their lives, you know, impacted on the other side of that in a really powerful way. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
step forward, I think. It's that
definitely.
baby step forward.
Yeah, definitely. So Shelley, to wrap up, first of all, I want to thank you so much for being here today,
Mm.
kicking off, our book launch here for action takers who step up and speak out. Again, get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/step up. There's also a bunch of free gifts over there from the authors. So Shelley, why don't you share with us, like, what is one word not one word, but I mean, what is a word? What's a message that you would love the audience to walk away with from today's interview?
I guess I would say is, think on the things that are going on in your life. Is Do you want to live that in a way that life is happening to you,
Mhm.
or life is happening for you? And the perspective is a choice. And so often we live, you hit traffic on the highway, it's happening to you. It may be that it's happening, that slowdown might have just kept you from something, right? So, that's just a stupid example, but it's the to you, for you. And what can I do? What can I do? We so often look at the what can't, I can't do this. I can't. You talked about that at the beginning, some of the
Mhm.
phrases. And, but the thing is, what can I do? Because I cannot control the circumstances, but I can. There, my guys are heading toward the door. There was AJ back there. But yeah, we can't always control that. So that would be my thoughts, happening
That's
to you
great.
or for you.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned traffic. I remember at one time I was running a little bit late, and so I did get stuck in traffic. And I found that there was an accident that happened, that I could have been in that accident, because when it happened, is if I had left on time, I could have been involved in that. You just never know. So that is so true. So is it happening to you or for you? And you get to decide. You get to decide. And that's one of the beauties of being a human being, is we do have that power of choice. Shelley, thanks so much for being here. I
Oh,
appreciate you.
thanks so much
And
for having me.
yeah, let's
Great
keep
question.
going. Let's keep going. Let's keep sharing this out there and
Oh,
get the book
yes,
to
there's
number
so
one.
many great stories. I can't wait to hear everybody else share.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to send you down right now, and then we're gonna, bring up our. So Shelley, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. All
That
right.
sounds good.
Bye. Oh my gosh, it's just so fantastic. I love her story, her message, and just get the book, get a copy of the book, actiontakerspublishing.com/step up. We're going to take a little short commercial break. And when I come back, we're going to bring up Sally Green, who is the Vice President of Author Development at Action Takers Publishing. And then we're going to go on to our next interviews, which are slated to start in a few minutes. So stick around. We got some really great interviews in store for you today. Hey, Sally, welcome to the show. Good to see you this morning. How's everything going? You're muted. I can't hear you.
It's going great. I was listening to Shelley. This is fabulous. I'm excited about this book.
Yeah, it's really just a great message, great stories. You know, people stepping up. You know, my voice was stifled for decades, for decades. And when I finally started, you know, to step up and speak out, it was freaking scary. I got to tell you. But I did it. I took that step and I made it happen. And then I kept doing it more and more and more. And then it just became more comfortable. And I know later we'll hear from Misty Lane. I know she wasn't feeling well, so she might not pop on today. I'm not sure yet, but you know, she talks about transparency and how it's necessary. And so that is one thing that once I started, you know, speaking out, that was part of the piece, was for me to become transparent, for me to step up and own my own self, like own who I am, and then move in from that. Now, do you have earbuds in by any chance, Sally?
No, I can get them.
Okay, please do, because there's a lot of like background noise happening over there. And so while Sally's doing that, we want to just talk a little bit about, you know, are you ready to become an author, a best-selling author? You know, our books are all best-selling books. And so we'd love to have you on this journey of authorship where you share your story. We're currently working on 12 books right now that we're looking for authors for. So if that's something that remotely interests you, please go to actiontakerspublishing.com/author. That's actiontakerspublishing.com/author. Check out the different books that we have going on and see if there's one that resonates with you over there. So Sally, let's hear it. Let's see. Much better. Okay, because there was some kind of clicking going on without the earbuds in. So thank you for putting those in. So today we're talking about the book Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. These are, you know, empowering stories today to change a life tomorrow. And this book has some incredible stories in it. Sally, did you get a chance to read any of the stories from this book?
Yeah, I've read almost all of them. And I think, what's huge about this is that, a lot of people, you talked about the fear. A lot of people don't step up because they're afraid. They live their whole lives not stepping up, not going after what they want. And so for these people, I think it's huge. And I think, it's going to encourage other people to say, hey, you know what? I'm not taking enough risks in my life. I'm one of them. I need to start stepping up and doing things differently.
Yeah. Well, we get one chance, only one chance at this thing we call life. And so how are we living it? Are we living, or are we just kind of like making our way through it? And I know the first, 51 years of my life, I spent a lot of it really just kind of making my way through it. Like I thought I was really living, doing a lot of cool things. But as I look back, they weren't all that cool. I just honestly, they weren't really all that cool. But, I thought I was at the time, and there's no like I wish I had, or regrets about how I lived my life, because it's part of who I am today is based on that. But I did allow fear to control my every movement, whether it was turning right or turning left. A lot of times the choices that I made were based on the fear I was experiencing, and I was like, okay, this fear will be less scary than this one, and so I'll go this way because it's less scary. Instead of, like Shelley was talking about, how Buffalo, they head into the storm. This was Linda, and I was running away from the storm, like constantly running away from the storm. I just didn't like conflict in any way, shape, or form. And it didn't mean conflict with others always. Sometimes it was conflict within myself. And so I just didn't want to experience conflict like that. So it's been an interesting journey for sure for me, to step up and speak out. And now, Sally, you chose not to do a chapter in this book, and I'd like to ask you why. Why was that you chose not to do a chapter in this particular book?
Because I didn't feel that I had a story to share. I'm one of those ones who I think haven't stepped up. I haven't taken risks in my life. I, kind of just go with the flow. And so, I was thinking about what story would I share? And I didn't have one. So I was like, all right, I need to start taking more risks. I need to start doing things, because I've lived a life pretty much, just going, and just, she talks about just surviving the storms. Just figuring out a way to survive instead of thrive, so the last couple of years I've stepped into doing different things and doing things, but before that I really didn't have. And I've told that story multiple times. So I was like, well, I think I'm going to just step away from this one because I really don't have a story.
And that's a great point there. What I love, thanks for sharing that. That's a vulnerable moment to share that, I haven't stepped up, and that's why I chose not to be in this book. And so, first of all, thank you for going there and sharing that, that honesty, because this book and the intention of it is to empower and inspire people to step up. And so has you reading some of these chapters, has that helped you to see, the different ways that you might be able to step up and speak out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love all these stories, and and even Shelley, doing the caregiving, because I've been a part of that for the last
Yeah.
5 or 6 years with my mom. My mom has Alzheimer's, and so it's it's like, all right, I need to start pouring into myself. I need to start taking care of me. I need to start doing things that, how, and the thing is, I put a lot of the pressure on myself. Um, and I think that it's other people putting the pressure on me, but it's really me putting the pressure on me. That so it's being shifting your mind, shifting your mindset.
Yeah.
So you know, yeah. So
That's
it's
a biggie.
yeah, yeah,
That's a biggie, because when we realize, and Jack Canfield talks about it in his book, The Success Principles, the very first principle is to take 100% responsibility for your own life. That when I read that, like one of the books we did was called The Book I Read. And in the book I read, I chose the success principles. And in that I say, it wasn't about the book. It wasn't about the chapter. It was about just the title of the chapter. Take 100% responsibility for your own life. And I was like, oh man, I haven't been doing this at all,
yeah.
at all. And so that one piece right there, when we have that realization again, I have awareness. Okay. I won't do that again. But what?
True.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now how has that shifted your life, since you had that awareness, that realization that, that it wasn't others, that I am responsible, that I need to take that responsibility on the actions that I've taken. How has that changed your life so far?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I used to think, okay, well, I need to take care of people because they expect me to. And they're looking at me to do this, and so I need to step up and do all this stuff. And when I realized that it wasn't them putting the pressure on me, it was me putting the pressure on me, I was able to stop and say, all right, you know what? I don't need to do all of this stuff. And I stepped away, and other people have stepped up. So it's,
Yes.
it's just figuring it all out. Knowing, having that discernment to be able to know what it is you should be doing, and what it is you need to be doing. And yeah,
Yeah. I want to say something on that, because sometimes our stepping down is our stepping up. Sometimes our
yeah,
stepping down. And so what you did in those instances is that you stepped down so that what? Just like the book title here, the subtitle, Empowering Stories Today. So what happens is when we step down, it empowers others to step up. Sometimes we're in the place, we're up in the place that we shouldn't be. This isn't really where we should be. It's somebody else should be there. But what we've done is we've taken their light. We've taken their opportunity to step up because we're in that position. So, just like when there is some kind of like, there's some kind of tragedy, there's a tragedy that happens. A lot of times what happens is somebody will step into somebody will be, they're like, oh my God, the world, the sky's falling. And then somebody that you don't expect actually steps up and says, hey, don't worry. I got this. I'm going to take care of everything. You never know who's going to be that person. Sometimes it does take a tragedy for that to happen. But it's really interesting how when we sit back and we don't, step up into that space, when we don't step up into that space, we're actually crushing other people. And I'm going to share a brief story on this. I used to work at a bank. I've had 49 jobs, and I had a bank was one of them. Okay, so I worked at this bank, and I was like an up and coming, I was a bank teller, and then eventually I became a supervisor for bank tellers. And I was an up and coming. I was just starting, just getting into it. And we had this supervisor who had, she was very wealthy. Like she and her husband, they were multimillionaires, and she was the supervisor. And I looked at that and I said, if she would just step down and allow one of us to step into that position, she would, I mean, even I was 22, I think at the time. That would allow us to be able to step up and to be empowered with something different. But no, she's taking that opportunity away from us in being able to step up, because she's, she was wealthy. She didn't need the money. Maybe she needed that for her self-esteem. I don't know. But at the time I was like, like she should step down so I can step up, because I was ready to supervise at that time, But anyway, it just, sometimes there are people in our lives that are taking that light away from us and giving, and disempowering us by taking that. And so sometimes we got to step down in order for others to step up. And that's actually a very good quotable quote. I think I love that. Shelley says, definitely. What an epiphany, Sally. Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's a huge epiphany. So Sally, now that you've read, the chapters and that, do you see yourself having that story of stepping up to speak out now?
Probably not yet. I mean, I'm still pretty, I don't know what the word is. I'm not a risk taker. So,
well, this begs a great question, because does it have to be risk taking in order to be stepping up? Maybe the speaking out part, I don't know, but you're always, you just speak your mind anyway. So you are already speaking up for different things. And so you're doing that piece. So maybe you are stepping up, you're just not seeing it yet. Maybe that's what's happening. Are you possibly comparing your experiences to others to create that as a gauge? I don't know. It's the question you don't have to answer, of course, unless you want to. Yeah.
But it could be that, or I don't see my experiences in my life as being, a story worth telling at certain times,
Right.
And I think, and I think Shelley kind of hit on that too when she was talking, and we kind of look back at our life and we start sharing what we have. And I get surprised when people are like interested in things that I've done, because I'm like, it doesn't seem that interesting to me.
Well, yeah, because we're just living our lives. Like my life doesn't seem, even breaking through a fear every day for a year, that doesn't seem interesting to me, but it seems to interest a lot of people, because, I just lived it.
Right.
It was no big deal. I mean, it was something I had to go through for myself. Before we move forward, I just want to make sure, Rhonda, if you are, I see that you're a little avatar is there, but I don't see your face. So I need to see your face before I'll bring you up to the screen. There you are. Are you able to turn your camera around the other way so we can see you? Because with the light behind you, it's creating you as a shadow. So if you can do that, that would be awesome. Yes, we are in action right now, making it happen.
We are action takers.
That's right. Can you move just a little bit to your right, Rhonda? So we'll get her adjusted. There we go. That's great.
There she is. Woo!
Fantastic. Yeah, just so you have the window facing on you so we can see your face. So we're going to bring our next guest, Dr. Rhonda Smith, up to the stage. But before we do that, we're going to stop for a very short 30-second commercial break. We'll be right back. We're having a great time here today. We're talking about the book, Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. It's such a beautiful, when these books come in the mail, Sally, I'm like, oh my God, I just love it. I want to cry every single time a new book comes in the mail. It's so amazing. So absolutely amazing. We're bringing up our next guest, who is Dr. Rhonda Smith. And let me see, bring her up here. Hi, Rhonda. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. This is much better with you this way because we can actually see you. The other way, you were just kind of
Good.
like a shadow.
Okay.
So before we get started, the first thing I like to do is I like to ask about the chapter title. So Dr. Rhonda, your chapter title is Resilient, Renewed, Restored. I would love for you to share with us, like, what does that mean? How did you come up with that chapter title? And just share with us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the reason I came up with it is because of my life, the life that I've lived. I was a teenage mother. I grew up in the projects with a single mother. Also, I left there, went to college with my daughter, graduated from college, got married, was in a relationship with toxic individuals. So because of that, I call it resilient, restored, and renewed because so many women can't get through those relationships. So what I did was going through my relationships, I started to teach people, write about it. And so now I have a platform for women to become restored, renewed, and resilient.
I love how you took that situation and you turned it around. So I'm curious, do you know any statistics or anything about the numbers of people that come out of the projects and to doing kind of like not what you're doing, but to come out of there and to be restored and renewed? Do you have any like statistics or anything?
I
like
don't
that?
really have the statistics, but I know that it's not a lot that I know of. It's very hard to find someone that can be like that. I mean, you can be, but I don't know a lot of people that can. Even going into the prisons, Linda, I worked there for like 8 years, and I seen so many women coming into the prisons for toxic relationships,
Yeah.
coming back out in the same relationships, not even understanding what they were in. So it takes a lot of resiliency, but it also takes a lot of prayer, a lot of hard work, a lot of pain, all of that to really get through that. And a lot of people rather not feel the pain and just say, forget it, it's too much. They settle. So I'm not really knowing the statistics, but I know it's not a lot.
Yeah. So what was it? What do you think it was about you? Was it something about your mother? Was there anything about your mother that helped you see that, what, maybe it was, I don't want to live that life? Or what was it about you?
A lot of people ask me that, even my daughter. My daughter said, Mom, who was your role model? I don't know. I think I know my mother has a lot of resiliency. My mother was a single mother. She worked very hard for me and my brother. My aunt was a nurse, so I always wanted to be in the medical field. But I don't know. I think it was something that God put inside of me. Because I can't say, I want to be like my aunt or my uncle. It was a real resiliency. It was something God had put in me before I was born that I didn't even know I had. So I can't say. I really don't know. I just know God has given me this platform, this ministry.
And you listened.
I listened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sally, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yeah, I love that because I think a lot of people don't listen. A lot of people, they live their lives and they get those twangs that, I should be stepping up or I should be doing something different or whatever, and they don't listen to it. They stifle it. So, why do you think that, you and as apart from the other people in your family made that shift, that
I think that some people are made differently. Some people don't want to be alone. Some people are ashamed of their story. And I always say, hey, let's stop being ashamed of our stories and stop blaming people and change the game. Hey, let's get stronger. So stronger to me is better. Stronger together is better. It was something that God put in me that I didn't even know I had. And this didn't happen until my 50s. This is like 8 to 10 years ago, going through divorce, a job being taken away from me that I owned. So it was a lot. And I said, okay, God, something is not right here. Something is going on with these people. And he said to me, no, it's you. Mm-hmm. It's you. And like you said, Linda, you have to take 100% of the blame. You have to be accountable. And so I just started changing my life, saying, I don't want to live like that. But I already know also that this is what God had for me, not what I have for me. I just wanted to take care of clients, do my thing and come home, not write books, not have a platform, not speak. But when God said, do it, I said, okay. So I just said yes.
So what's been the response?
Don't say yes.
What's been the response?
A lot of fear. I'm sorry.
That's all right. What's been the response from your family? because of this? Have you
Please.
influenced them to step?
Not
to
even my family. On Facebook, when I see
friends?
people from my home, they be like, my nickname is Lisa. Oh my God, Lisa, you did this. You did. Oh, we're so proud of you. So a lot of people are really proud of what I'm doing. Stepping up and speaking out, not being fearful, because what I talk about is shameful. A lot of people don't want to hear it, but I know it's God because people have called me, inboxed me. I have so many clients now from toxic relationships because I stepped up and spoke out. They know that they're not alone now.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction you share there, because with shame, we can shame ourselves and we can allow others to shame us. But once we own it, like, you know what, this is the truth. The truth, we shouldn't have any shame in truth, I don't believe. And so a lot of times I'll show up in, not show up in different ways, but I'll share different things. And as I'm sharing them, sometimes I'm thinking, maybe this is something I shouldn't share. And then I say, wait a minute, who cares? It's the truth. If it's the truth, why am I scared to share it?
That's
And
right.
to get to that point, so I'm curious, Rhonda, like, what for you, what was it that helped you to get to that point? Or let me ask a different question. Did you yourself feel shame? Because you've mentioned shame, but
Oh,
did you yourself
absolutely.
feel? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't understand what that shame was about. So I did feel ashamed. I didn't want to tell anybody like, oh, I'm in this relationship and this is what's going on, because I didn't understand it. First of all, if we don't understand that brokenness attracts brokenness, then we'll stay broken. Wholeness attracts wholeness. And when we're not that way, we're people pleasers. We want to please everybody. We want everything to be okay. But until you go deep inside and say, okay, what is this thing? Why am I always attracted to someone that hurts me? Something's there. Once you dig deep enough to find out, it's very painful. It's painful and it's shameful. But guess what? Once you get broken through that, oh my God, the freedom. I always tell people it's like a butterfly in a cocoon, and it's dark and it's sticky and it's nasty. And you look out and it's too much sun, so you're afraid, so you go back. We stay on our discomfort because our discomfort becomes our comfort. But if you just walk out and crawl and walk, then you begin to fly and be free. And so that to me is deep. A lot of people are still afraid to do that, but just teaching them, I think they're like, okay, maybe I could do that if we hold our hands. We got to hold our sisters' hands and let them know we're there for them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's hugely deep, right there. You said brokenness attracts brokenness.
Absolutely.
And this is a point that, this is a point where we get to decide to look at that as the reality. And the reality is that if I'm attracting broken people, what does this mean? This means that I am broken. But are we really broken? Or like, it's like the, have you heard of the kintsugi, I think is what it's called. It's the Japanese art of, like, they take broken pieces of like china or whatever, and then they put gold. So they put, well, piece it back together with gold. And I love this analogy, because even though we are broken, we can be fixed with that gold that makes us even more unique. And that's the beauty of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's so good, because again, that goes with that Jack Canfield, that responsibility, and it's responsibility for saying, this is where I am today. Then we get to decide, do I want to stay here? And like you, Rhonda, you said, I don't want to be this way anymore. I don't want to be this way anymore. Now you have that awareness. You're like, I have awareness. I have awareness. Okay.
I like that.
My little
I'm awakened. A lot of people are walking around asleep.
Yeah. Exactly. But so now you have this awareness piece, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to be this anymore. So what was your first step from there? Because to have that realization is one thing, but then to actually take an action step, what was that action
So my
step?
first step was, once I realized that, I thought, oh my God, I got to share this with women. Because what I realized is, while I was working in the prison, I saw so many people come into my office, not because they wanted a prescription or not because they wanted something for the illness. They wanted me, tell me about the brokenness again. Tell me about the narcissist. Tell me about the stages. They were so interested in it because a lot of them were there from those relationships. So at that time I said, okay, God, what do I do with this? He said, leave and start your own business. Well, I had a part-time business, but can you imagine leaving? I thought, do what? I really had to trust God to walk out of there with no full-time job into my full-time job now. So I took that awareness, and now I'm teaching all my other clients and women who want to know, some men. I have a platform now that I teach them how to awaken, how to go within and connect with their inner child, how to become whole, so that now they can attract whole. So that's what I did with that awareness piece. I just kept going and kept going. And next thing I know, Linda, I was writing books, and I'm like, oh my God, never even knew I was going to be doing any of this. Starting programs, I have an online school, so it's just being obedient to the calling, even though it's painful.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing that. We're talking about the book, Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here right now. Okay, hold on. Bear with me a second. Okay, there we go. Yeah, and I want to try something. I'm going to try something on you guys because I have people here to. It works. Okay. I'm always trying new things. I love it. And so you guys are my guinea pigs today. I wanted to see how this would work here. So we're talking about the book, Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out, Empowering Stories Today to Change a Life Tomorrow. And Sally, I'm going to throw it over to you. I know you got a question for Rhonda.
Yeah, Rhonda, has anything surprised you about this whole process of putting especially with the process of putting this book together and sharing your story?
Everything has surprised me, Sally, from the time my first book. I'm in awe. I really am. I'm in awe of everything that God is doing. Every book that I've written, every book that I've shared, everything that I'm doing, period. All the connections that are coming, I'm in awe and amazed because I've never saw any of it coming. None of it.
Oh, I love that. Because even as many times as you have, shared your story, it still creates that different piece within us, right? And so, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Again, we're talking about action takers who step up and speak out, empowering stories today to change a life tomorrow. You can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/step up. Again, that's actiontakerspublishing.com/step up. The authors are giving away some gifts over there. And as you land on that page, you'll see some flags, and those flags are for the different countries. Click on the flag that's the country that represents you where you are, and get your copy there today. We are best-selling book, and we're shooting for the #1 status. So if you could help us get there just by purchasing one copy, the Kindle version, that would be fantastic. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in today and helping us to hit that #1 bestseller status. So Rhonda, what's something that, what was your greatest epiphany through sharing your story when you first started sharing it? Because that piece of, step up and speak out, it's that piece you stepped up because you said, you know what, I'm not going to live this life. This is not going to be, I'm going to choose a different life. And you did that. You took those steps, and then to speak out. So what was a huge epiphany maybe you had through this journey of speaking out? Was it impacting other people's lives? How did it impact your own life? So why don't you share with us that?
So I would say my epiphany was impacting other people's life, because when people come to me now saying, oh my God, I need your help. And I mean, they're sending friends from all over, not just Ohio, all over, because they're in these situations, and because I spoke out, they're willing to share their story with me because they're not ashamed to share it with me. Now I have a platform that I'm allowing people to speak out and tell their stories so that we can continue to reach others. So that to me is the most important thing.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Sally, I was going to call on you, but you got your head down. Unmute yourself. I know you got a question. She's writing her notes.
That's it. No, I love your story. I love that you've shared it with us, and being that resilient, being that, that person that, people are looking up to, and people are looking for a way to, to get out of the situation, to get through that storm and to get out of that situation, and that you're providing that light and you're providing that to so many women, I think is just huge. And I want to thank you for that. Do you want to share maybe a little bit of, of how do you, maybe a little part of what you shared in the book, or a little bit of your story, and how you manage those fears, and how you help other people overcome their fear? What do you tell them to do?
So what I do is, first of all, is only in a toxic relationship. And I'm talking about, in my book, I talk about codependency and narcissism. And I don't talk about a regular narcissism, and it's a spectrum I give. I talk about a pathological one. I also talk about my relationships, what I went through, the 3 stages that are always there, which is first the honeymoon phase, because it's always hot, heavy, and you connect really quick, which is, first of all, a red flag. The second stage I talk about is devaluation. It's always a devaluation stage coming. And the third is discard. And when I talk about those 3 phases, they all say, oh my God, how do you know? Because that's what happens in all toxic relationships. So I tell them what happened to me. I tell them how I got through that. The most important thing I tell people is no contact. Because if you have contact with that person, you will never leave. A love relationship that is toxic is an addiction. So if you stay around it, you'll never get away from it. It's like a drug. And so when I start sharing those things and telling them how I got through it with no contact, then they start to, everybody don't do it because everybody don't want to go through the pain, but the one that do, they're so thankful. Because all you hear about today now is narcissism, but there's different types. And people can say that they're over it and they're really not. Some people just stop and then they go into codependency, anorexia. What is that? You're still craving that thing and it's still there. You just go away, but it's coming back sooner or later and it's going to connect unless you heal it. So I teach them about that too. And Ross Rosenberg, who is a renowned therapist, is the one who taught me the human magnet syndrome. No codependency, no more.
I love it. There's so many things you just said there that because you mentioned, like the codependency and those who go back. Like a great example. I used to work in the jails also, Rhonda. I don't know if I ever told you that, but we had many times, where the prisoners would, they would just like be repeat offenders because that had become their comfort zone, right? That place. Right. And no matter how many times they'd say, I'm never coming back, they would, there's those people that would come back over and over again. We even had an instance. I remember there was this one gentleman who he escaped. So they were taking him to court and he was dressed in a suit. And so he just walked out with all the lawyers, Wow. So what did they do? The first place the deputies went was straight to his home because they knew he'd go home because it's like habitual, right? They just go back to where they were, which is unfortunate because they haven't made a decision yet to actually do that transformation and really stick to it, right? And so how did you yourself, I grew up in a very volatile, abusive environment. I made a decision at age 21 that I was not going to repeat my mom's life. That's how it was for me. And so I made a decision on that and I took action on that. And so I'm curious how you, what got you to that point that you did take that action to actually not repeat what was the norm in your environment, in the projects.
So when I left home at 18, I knew I didn't never want to live in the projects. I knew I didn't want to grow up there. So my life was different as far as going to school, getting a degree, and all of that. What I didn't realize is that I was unconsciously attracted to toxic relationships. So I didn't realize that until I started thinking, something's not right here. What is truly wrong? Why do I keep attracting these? So I had to find car. I had a beautiful home. I built my home. All of that was great. But the relationships and what people don't realize, I don't care how much you have. I don't care how educated you are. If you don't have your core right, you'll never be happy. So what I realize is that I'm not happy. I have all these things and I'm still not happy. What is really wrong? And when I got on my knees and prayed about it, God showed me. He says, you have to change your core. You have to transform your life. All of these things are material things, but here is what really matters. And I got on my knees, I prayed, I cried, and I continued to go through the process of healing. Not one day, not 2 days. It took a while. Every day I took a step into my destiny, every day. So it wasn't easy, but it was so worth it. And it took a while, but I had to work on me. I had to make sure I continue to stay consistent. And a lot of people won't do that because it's painful going through the separation of people, but you have to separate yourself before you become whole again.
Oh, definitely. Oh my gosh. So many words of wisdom. I love it. I love it. Sometimes we have to go through that pain to create that wisdom on the other side, right? Yeah. So Rhonda, what's like your last words that you would like to share with the audience? Why don't you tell us what you're doing today how you mentioned a little bit about it, but like, how can people contact you?
So what I do today is I do a coaching for addiction, substance abuse, and also for relationships. I also collaborate with the Dream Center, which is a center we have that's a nonprofit that helps homeless people, people that are addicted. We feed them. We do all these great things. I also collaborate with Home for Life, where they have teenage mothers that come in at 18 and up. They have nowhere to go. We teach them how to love themselves and how to get through what they're doing. I'm getting ready to do an awakening on June the 17th, which is a nonprofit for people that are speaking. I have people telling their stories so that we could connect and help other people tell their stories. And they can always reach me at my website, renewedhealthcare.com, or the divinecoretransformation.org.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. We're talking today about the Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out book that is launching today on June 4th. And so excited about this book. And thank you so much, Rhonda, for being part of this book, sharing your story, sharing your message. And your resilient, renewed, and restored chapter is one that must be read. Rhonda's gone through a lot. Yeah. Thank you so much. She's gone through a lot, and she's, helping other people now to come out of those different things that they're going through today. So Rhonda, thanks so much. Appreciate you. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.
See you later. Oh gosh. Fantastic, Sally. I just love her story, her mission, everything she's gone through, and just those nuggets of wisdom. So many. What's one that you got?
Yeah, I think being able to help other people that are going through the same thing that you went through.
Yeah.
And being that light for other people. So
that's big. That's big.
And that's what I love about all our authors, especially in this book, is that, that's what they're doing is that, they're sharing their story because they want to, just like it says in the title, they want to be able to change someone else's life and empower somebody by sharing their story. And that's something that, a lot of people don't step up and do that. So
yeah, that can be scary. It can feel like a lot of responsibility, right? Because it's like, oh no, like if I say this or say that I'm kind of responsible for the outcome. It can feel that way. The reality is that we're all responsible for our own outcomes. We can listen to advice or not. It's our choice. And so that's what I do love about this book, like you mentioned, because it's that speak out part. The stepping up is one piece, but the speaking out, that's the second piece, where we're actually sharing the message in hopes that we can empower others with our story, with our message, to help them to move forward in their own lives. And so we do have our next guest coming up in just a moment, Steve McAllister. And Steve, I'm going to ask you if you can back away from your camera just a little bit, because there we go. Much better. Thank you. And so I'll bring you up in just a second. We're talking about Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. And you can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/step up. There's also a lot of free gifts over there from the authors. So go hit it hard. Cash in on those free gifts and get your copy, your Kindle version copy of Step Up and Speak Out. And we're going to go to a short commercial break, and then we'll bring on next guest up, Steve McAllister. See you guys in just 33 seconds. Here we are, launch day for the book Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. These are amazing stories that are, they're empowering stories today to change a life tomorrow. And I love this subtitle because, Sally, when we step up and speak out, this is our opportunity to empower others. Because when we share our stories, oftentimes we think, oh, nobody really wants to hear my story. My story isn't important. There's no value in my story. Whatever. There's all these different things that we can think about our own lives and our own stories. But the reality and the truth is that there are many, many people who are going through today what you went through. There are many people today who need your guidance to help them through that situation. And we're bringing up our next guest, who's Steve McAllister. And what I found interesting, Steve, is that the title of your chapter, Surviving the Storm. Shelley Snitko earlier, she was on here earlier today, and her chapter is about, surviving storms, or thriving through the storm. Sorry, so you have surviving to thriving, and it's through storms as well. So I'm curious, Steve, how did you come up with this chapter title, Surviving the Storm?
Well, I did have help from Misty. She and I have become good friends, and she really said, for the bullying that you went through with your dad, and you surviving that, it's been a storm all your life. And so she said, you need to come up with a wow factor, something that's going to capture somebody's somebody's I guess, what's a good word for it? The They want to be able to experience the same thing you went through, but they want to be able to reach out and get help. And surviving the storm is one thing that I did survive, and it was a storm at home that I didn't have to really go through. It was not a choice of mine, but I just had to go through it.
Yeah, I would love for you to touch on that piece. You mentioned the bullying at home, and I think this happens probably more often than we recognize. And a lot of that is because, like as Rhonda was talking about, the shame, and a lot of
hmm
times we're shameful for taking it, or we're shameful that it's even happening in the first place. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, like that, as far as that bullying that went on inside of your home, did you ever feel like, I should have done something different?
Yeah, I wanted to do a lot of things different, but bless my mom's heart. She was like the peacemaker of the home, and she felt like she was, and I thought she was. And she just said it was better for me to keep quiet than for me to spout out, because as many times as I wanted to spout out, I probably would have done more damage to her, and she would have had to go through a lot, and I didn't want to do that to her.
So did that also carry into your adulthood, that I should just stay silenced?
hmm And that's why I never thought about telling my story, was because I've been so used to being clammed up and not saying a word to anybody, that I thought, well, who's going to listen to me? I mean, yeah, as a kid, that's one thing. When you're a kid, you get bullied as a kid. But when it trails on through church, and then it really hits home and you're at home, you feel like that should be a safe haven. And when you get bullied at home, you're surrounded by it. And so I think that's one piece that I want to be able to educate people and let them know you can get help. Go to a pastor, go to your pastor, go to a trusted friend and tell them about it. And if they're your friend, they're going to be a listening ear, and they're going to be willing to do what they can to give you the advice that you need to hear. And with Misty, when I met her about 3 years ago, I think now, she was at a conference and she told me her story, or actually, she was a speaker, and her story kind of resonated with me a little bit by surviving the storm. And when she said, Steve, tell me a little bit about your story. And so I told her one of the incidences that I have in my book. And she said, Steve, you need to speak up and speak out. And I'm like, what's that? She said, believe me, you'll find out in the future. You just need to sit down with a paper and I'll help you do whatever I can. But you need to tell your story. So for the first time, I was able to feel good about speaking up and speaking out about a story that really I kept clammed up about for years. And even into my adult life, I went into the Navy, and I thought by doing that, I'd help my dad, or show my dad that, hey, I can do something rather than being ridiculed by him. Well, I'm going to go into the Navy and I'm going to show him. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons why, but I wanted to serve my country at the same time. So what I did was, I graduated from boot camp. And so I was always, that's what happened with me, is I was trying to prove to my dad I could do something. And I don't know how far that went, but it didn't go far enough, because even after I left boot camp and after I left the Navy, I still dealt with it until he passed away.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now, when you decided to go ahead and share your story, to step up and speak out, to share about the bullying, has this gone through, helped you through any kind of healing that may have needed to happen? You share that experience with us?
Yes, there was a healing. First of all, the Lord, I got like Dr. Rhonda said, and bless her heart, and we did find out, by the way, that my dad was also a narcissist, and my poor mom had to deal with this for 60 plus years, and so she never said a word about things. She kept her mouth quiet as well. But she lived with my dad, and my dad would just, as he got older and he got sicker, things just got worse until he passed. But anyway, the healing part came when he passed, and I was able to say, okay, now I want to help others. I feel like I can help others now. And I can speak up and speak out. So the healing process came along with me writing my story. As I was writing my story, I was getting healed.
That is so big. And that's part of the piece, that why we do what we do, because that's what I discovered for myself is when I started sharing my story, that I was healing myself, but plus, also helping others by them reading my story. So, Steve, thanks so much for stepping up and speaking out about your story, the bullying. And I know Sally has a similar type of experience. So I'm going to, throw it over to her to, ask any questions regarding the bullying piece, especially.
Yeah, I wrote my story in Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore, and I wrote about my experience in 7th grade being bullied. And it was funny because when I sat down to write it, I thought that I had dealt with all of the emotions, and this was just 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And when I sat down and actually put it on paper, I was sitting there bawling, writing this.
I was
thing,
putting
and
teardrops in.
right.
I was putting
And then-
teardrops on my paper.
And Linda and I mean, I knew Linda, but we weren't working together at the time. And I called her up and I said, I don't think I can do this. I hitting that send button for me was really difficult. But I hit it and I was like, okay, let's just do it, but it is scary, and it's facing those fears and doing things that scare you a lot of times that will help you break through the healing process. So so what fears have you overcome in this process, and what's been your experience? The same?
My fear, by overcoming fear, meaning that I have been able to speak up and I've been able to tell my story and what makes me feel better. And when I do that, I'm healing myself, but I'm hoping I'm healing others at the same time. But I think that's how I'm feeling right now, is that it's been a long process, but I feel like my healing has been from the time that I sat down and started writing. By the way, I talked to my sisters about it. I was also clamming up because I was afraid about what they might say to me. But they said, if you can educate and you can heal other people by what you're doing, we're all for it. We're backing you up 100%.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. What's been the response from your family and friends who have seen, especially your younger self, people
Right.
who knew you back then? Did a lot of people, were they surprised or did they know that you went
Actually,
through this?
yes. The people, the young ladies that I mentioned in the dedication in my book, they were really surprised because when I did interviews with Mr. Harris and a couple other people, they were really they were shocked. They were like, "Your dad was like that? How could you live through that? Your poor mother, and they were feeling bad about both of us, but they were shocked. I mean, it was a huge surprise, if not a shock, to my elementary school friends as well as people at church.
Yeah, there's
Because
a song by Charlie Pride. No one knows what goes on behind closed doors, right?
Yep,
I think
I
that's
remember
Charlie
that.
Pride. And it's
That was
true.
good.
I think that's Charlie Pride. Thank you. And it's so true. No one does know what's going on behind there until we do share. Like again, stepping up and speaking out. And a lot of times there's a shame that's attached to that. I grew up in a very volatile, abusive, alcoholic household. My dad was a narcissist as well. And then come to find out that he was a gaslighter as well. Like I didn't even know what that word was until that book that, Sally mentioned, Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. That was the first time I ever heard that phrase, gaslighter. And that was my dad for sure. It's like, as you mentioned, Steve, you said your mother for 60 something years. My mom and dad were together for 55 years before my dad passed away. And the first words my mom said when my dad passed away, and I'm standing right next to her in the hospital at his bed when he took that last breath, her very first words were, "Thank God the bastard is dead." Those were her first words. She lived 55 years in that.
Mhm.
And I think there's a huge lesson there, is that we don't have to live there, but sometimes it can be a scary situation to step out and to step beyond what you're used to step out of that comfort zone, because the comfort zone doesn't mean it's comfortable. It just means it is a place that we have comfort because that's what we're used to. It doesn't mean it's
Mhm.
comfortable. And so Steve, like you had that type of experience. So how have you used that experience that you had growing up, with the bullying? How have you used that experience today, through the different things you went through, but how do you use that experience today to not put up with bullying? Do you experience bullying anymore? Did you yourself
No.
become a bully? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
No, I've not become a bully only because, that old phrase, or I don't know if they still use it, but sticks and stones may break your
Oh,
bones, but words do hurt. It cuts like a knife.
forever. Yeah.
And so when I tell people that, if I ever bullied somebody after what I went through, then I'm no better than the bullying person that bullied me. And then what am I supposed to do if I'm supposed to speak out against it, but yet I'm bullying somebody? And so I try to teach. When I say teach people, I advise people this is what you need to do. Like, go get help from your pastor, go to a trusted friend. So I'm giving advice, but people are reading my book, and that's really a lot of a teaching lesson in itself, is what I'm saying in there. There's a lot of positive that I take, or that I put in there after my boo-hoo stories, if you want to put it that way. But it's a teaching lesson, and I've had several people already read the chapter, and they've told me that it was life-changing for them. And so now I'm able to go and do speaking engagements. Somebody offered to have me come to a school and do a speaking engagement and assembly to help kids who are dealing with it. Even if it's a one-on-one, I'm willing to do that.
That's awesome. Congratulations on having that happen, because this is because you have stepped up and spoke out that people recognize that this is somebody that can come in and help our children. Because as children, that's where bullying, we kind of accept it, like that's just part of childhood. But that just kind of irks me that is part of childhood. I
Yeah,
was bullied, but unlike you, Steve, I became a bully. So I was a product of my environment. I was a bully. I was a judgmental person, and I carried that around with me for decades because that was the environment I was used to, and I use that as my quote unquote excuse. But that's who I was, because that's all I knew. That was all I knew. I didn't know people. Like when I saw nice people, I always said,
mhm,
"Oh, they're just faking it. They're not real."
yeah,
I didn't believe that to be a true, like to be reality. It wasn't until much later that I realized that, there are actually good people out there. I didn't go to church, so I didn't have that kind of environment. Like you mentioned, talking to your pastor. I didn't have a pastor. So, there are a lot of us out there who don't, like we experience those types of situations and we become that person. But, I'm here to say that you don't have to be that person. And as Dr.
right.
Rhonda mentioned, Dr. Rhonda went through a very, a bad environment, and she came out of it because she chose to not be that person. So for part of my message in the book is that you don't have to be that person. You get to decide to do something different. So Steve, what is something that you would like to share with, our listeners today? Something, about them stepping up and speaking out to sharing their own story.
I think that the more that you hear other people's story about what you personally went through, it's going to help you to speak up and step up and speak out, because there's a lot of times in your own life that you might, it doesn't have to be just bullying. It could be abusive situations, whether it's alcoholic or whether it's drug abuse or whatever. But you have to realize that there's a reason that people are speaking up and speaking or stepping out and speaking out, is because they're trying to educate and show you that you are a good person, you're a beautiful person inside and out, and you need to share your story. And that's why I think that whatever book, whether it's the next book or whatever, you need to sit down and write your story out
Yeah.
so that people can understand what you've been through, so that you might be able to help someone else.
That's exactly right. Empowering stories today to change a life tomorrow. So exactly what you just said there, Steve. Yeah, perfect. We're talking about the book, Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. You can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/step-up. That's actiontakerspublishing.com/step-up. And then also the authors are giving away some free gifts. So go ahead over there and get your free gifts. Now, Sally, I'll throw it back over to you.
Yeah, what I love about doing these books are our first-time authors, and seeing, watching Steve these last few weeks on Facebook and seeing how excited our first-time authors are. It takes me back to the first time that I had my first book and how excited I was. So I just love that about you, Steve, and that's one of the things that what Linda and I do. I'm just so excited. So maybe talk to somebody out there who has that story and they're thinking about ways. What has this process of writing your book and being part of this book, what has that done for you? And has anything surprised you about it? Has anything, you talked about being, getting the opportunity to speak, but has anything else happened that surprised you in this process?
Well, being able to actually do book signings, I've always watched other people do book signings, and and I tease now people about back in high school when we signed yearbooks in junior high. I always signed my name and put messages, and now I'm finding myself signing my name, an actual autograph in a book about a story that I wrote. And that's what really surprised me, is now I'm signing a book, not just a yearbook. And so that's what really surprised me. And I just finished going to the Branson International Film Festival, where we had a book fest, and we were able to sit at a desk and be able to tell our stories and be able to share our ins and outs of the books and what happened. So basically what you're doing today. And so I was able to market my books and sell my books, and even talk to a couple of producers. And I had a young lady who actually did a documentary based on the stories that I'm telling you guys about. This was last year, but now it's growing to the point where they want to expand on that and put like more of it and extend in more than just a 10-minute deal. So I'm talking to a producer about doing some other things with this book.
I love that. Tell us about the
Or
first
with
time you signed your autograph. Was it, did it feel strange to you? I know the first time someone asked me to sign, and I was like, just feels weird, putting my name on a
yeah,
book.
I said, I did. I had that feeling like, I'm pinching myself going, am I actually signing an autograph? Because I've been so used to signing checks, signing a yearbook. That's one thing. But when you're actually signing a book or a chapter that you wrote, there's a different feeling. It's almost like I had a chill or tingling sensation, but with excitement. It wasn't with fear. It was with excitement.
I love it.
Oh, I love that, Steve. That's so fun. It's so much fun. I remember too when I was first asked to, autograph a book. I was like, autograph? That's something that stars do. But
Exactly.
what I realized is that I had to put myself back into that place of me asking somebody else to autograph their book. Because that was me. I'm excited to ask somebody to autograph their book, right, that I have. And so I had to flip that around. I do this a lot. I will flip the situation. I'll say, okay, this is how I feel, so this must be how they feel. And it made me realize that, like, this is a special thing. It really is a special thing for not only for us to be the signee, but to, for somebody to come and ask us to sign their book. It's like that little glimpse of stardom, It's just a fun experience. So Steve, why don't you share with us, we got just a couple minutes left. Why don't you share with us, or share with the audience today, something that you would love for them to just kind of like take away from this book, from reading your chapter and your message? Why don't you share something with them?
I think that everybody goes through a dark storm, or a storm of their own, and dark clouds are always hovering over you. And what I've been writing in my book is that because you don't know what that person's going through. So I say, behind, and Misty kind of helped me out with that, and she thought that was a great idea. But I took away from what she had said, and it resonates with me, but it's also going to resonate with others. And I think what I'm putting in my book, and I want to send it out to you folks, is that behind every cloud, dark cloud, there's always a silver lining. And I tell people, go find yours.
That's a great message to leave with, Steve. Thank you so much for being part of this book, and you'll keep getting out there and autographing your book, dude. And this is the first of many. So what I love about this is, as Sally mentioned, watching Steve, him talking about it, his excitement about it. It's been really great, watching the journey of, the first time author, and, it's so exciting. And so Steve, this is the first of many, right? You took that first step. It feels great. You know what it's done for you. It's helping other people. So this is the first of many. I know that you've got more stories inside of you. I know you're going to be joining us on some of them, because we're talking about that. So
Yes.
Super excited to have you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
And
being here.
you're welcome. And it's Charlie Rich, not Charlie Pride.
Oh, thanks for letting me know. Okay. Charlie Rich. I'll still sing it. No one knows what goes on behind closed doors. Okay.
You did a great job there. Did you want me to give my email and things?
Yeah.
Not your email, just one thing. So
The
your website?
website.
Yeah.
Yes, it's actually Hands of Providence 22.com.
handsofprovidence22.com. And yes, everybody head over there to handsofprovidence22.com. Check out Steve. And we're just having a great time launching this book into its own stardom. It's already a best-selling book. How does that feel, Steve, to be a best-selling author?
Oh man, I had to take a deep breath and just say, wow. Thank you, Lord. But thank you, guys. Thanks to also you two and to Misty. But again, thank you for everything you've done for me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for being on this journey with us. And I'm going to go ahead and send you down to I like to call it the basement. I don't know why. I'll change the title of it someday. But anyway, I'm going to send you down to the basement, Steve. Thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate you. Let's get the word out about this book, and let's hit that #1 bestseller status. Everybody, okay,
All right.
See you later, Steve. Whew, oop, I cut him off right in the middle of his he was saying something, Sally. Uh-oh. Am I in trouble? Let's see. I'm not in trouble. Okay, I'm excited. This has been fantastic. Here we are launching this book, Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. And where is it showing up?
I've been checking the status online. We're still at number 4 right now on the bestseller. And
okay.
So we're, but they haven't rolled over on the rankings yet that I've seen anyway this morning. So we're still waiting for that to happen.
I think that Amazon doesn't roll the rankings over as often on weekends. I have kind of noticed that sometimes it'll go 4 or 5 hours before there's any kind of shift. So we'll just keep looking and keep you all updated as to the status of the book. But please, go over to actiontakerspublishing.com/step up and get your copy of the book. We're going to be back in just about 33 seconds, and we'll bring up our next guest. I see we have Sylvia Chavez in the wings, and we have another couple of guests that will be joining us in just a moment. Not only do I love our commercial, I love the cheetah, and I also love that music. Oh my God. It wakes me up. So today we're talking about the book Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out, Empowering Stories Today to Change a Life Tomorrow. You can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/step up. A lot of the authors have given you free gifts. So go in there, go to that same website and cash in on your free gifts. Also, when you get there, if you are in a different country other than the US, well, actually all the flags are there. If you go to that website, you'll see the different flags for the different countries. Click on the flag that represents your country and get your copy of the book today. It's only $1.99 on Kindle and $17.99 on paperback. So go get your Kindle copy and then leave us a review. Don't forget to leave a review. That's one thing I always forget to ask about, Sally, is those reviews. So we're going to bring up our next guest. Okay, my computer froze for a second there, so I'm back. We're going to bring up our next guest, which is Sylvia Chavez, the America's Love Queen. Hello, Coach Sylvia. How are you doing today?
Hello, my beautiful ladies. I'm so excited to be here with you.
We're excited to have you. Always excited to be in your presence. And I see you got the Ove behind you. I mean, the love behind you. There we go.
She is.
Love, life, and my little Chihuahua.
Ramona, the Chihuahua. She's so cute. Oh my gosh, just love her. Love her so much. Sylvia, excited to have you in this book. Just I've known you for several years now. I don't know, probably going on 6 or 7 years. Oh, no, 8. No, it'd be 2015. Yeah. December of 2015. That's when I met Sylvia. And I was hosting an event and she showed up and she was new to California. Were you new to the US or just to California?
No, just to California. Just California. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I met her at this event. And so our relationship has just, kept on growing and growing and growing. And that's the thing, is you never know who you're going to meet until you step out of your comfort zone. That's one thing I love to say all the time. And Sylvia is one of those that I did meet on this journey. And I'm so excited. But I got to know, Sylvia, this is the title of your chapter. It was buried deep down inside, that scream, that no. How did you come up with this chapter title?
It came out from my heart. I was writing the story and suddenly this was the title, because I remember being 7 years old and my whole body saying no, no, no. And I couldn't react. I was frozen. This is a story that I always said that it's once too many little girls that are abused every single day. And that's unfortunately a very common story. That doesn't mean that it's okay, because it's common. It's 3 out of 5 women have gone through any kind of abuse and sexual abuse, and those are the ones that have reported. So this is kind of crazy if you think about the numbers. That's why this title came from the bottom of my heart, because I told my story many times. But every time it's a new chapter, like a new chapter of a new book. And this is the new chapter of the new book.
That's right. Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. We have the copies in our hand.
We have the copy. It's very dear to my heart. Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. So Sylvia, you, I know your story really well. I've known you for all these years, and I'm curious though, when you first started sharing your story. So we had Dr. Rhonda Smith on earlier, and she was talking about shame, and I know you talk a lot about shame as well. And so when you first started sharing your story, did you have any shame involved in that?
Oh, I had shame involved for so many years. But not when I started sharing my story. It was in a very close group of people. I was studying counseling at that moment. And this was kind of very therapeutic, just being there, the groups. And I remember the first time I shared that, and the weirdest things happened for me, that 2 or 3 of the 6 that were there say, yeah, something like that happened to me. Something like that happened to me. So we started healing together. And then I realized that sharing was healing for me and for others. That was the beginning of this journey, because I knew that even though I felt that I was dirty, I felt that for so many years, that my body was dirty and my body was broken, that I didn't even have a body. So, but there was a reason for everything that I was going through. And I could take that and create a mission for what happened, because everything that happened to me in my life was perfect. I wouldn't change anything. Today, I can say that there's nothing I would change out of my life. And even though that was really painful for so many years, it made me the woman that I am today. And I love this woman, you know, and I love what
Me
I'm doing. And
too.
yes. And I love you, Sally. And this is like, you know, this is my mission in life, and I embrace it with every part of me.
Yeah, I'm curious that piece of when we get to the other side, we say this is, I hear this a lot, and I say it myself, I wouldn't change anything. And so as you were going through those challenges, the storm, we talk, Shelley and Steve talk about the storm in their chapters, but as you were going through those challenges in your life, those tough times, those abusive times, as you were going through those, did you ever think that you would get to this spot where you would say, I'm so glad I went through that?
Oh, no. I love this question, Linda. This is such a great question, because for many, many years, I felt the victim of this story, the victim of my life, the victim of the world and others. And the moment that I decided that I was not going to be a victim anymore, because enough was enough, and I was fed up with this, and I decided to take over my life, and step up. Like this book is so amazing. Step up and speak out. I started working on myself and healing those wounds. And let me tell you, this is not an overnight work. It took me years and years and years. And sometimes I still find something else that I need to heal, because we're humans and things happen every day. So no, for many, many years, I felt like everything happened to me, not for me,
Yeah. And then now you can reflect back and realize that those actually were happening for you in order to be able to do what you're doing today, right?
Absolutely. But it took me years to realize that. Years. Yes.
I hear you. I'm in the same boat as that. Oh my God. Decades.
Yeah, decades. Absolutely. Decades. I'm 61. So yeah, it took me decades. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's right. You're the older woman. I'm 60. You're the older woman.
I'm the older. I'm so excited to be the oldest here.
Oh, I love it. Yes, Sally, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yeah. So Sylvia, what response have you gotten from your family and friends because of this book? Have they read your chapter, and what have they said to you about it?
Oh, they loved it. They know the story, because I think I shared this with my family and my kids long ago. But every time it's like they learn something else about me. And it's inspiring, because I'm here to inspire others to feel the same way I feel today, about love, about relationships, about life. And they are pretty happy with the chapter. I mean, it's not just my chapter. I mean, every single chapter in this book is truly an inspiration for others, because there are 14 writers here, right? 14 writers, everyone put their soul and heart in this. So these stories are so inspiring. So that's the response. Yeah.
Have you connected with some of the other writers in this book, and how has that helped you?
No, I haven't connected. And that's a great idea, actually. Nope. No, I haven't connected with the other writers. I will. I will, because we have something so good in common, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't have time, because we are a bestseller already, and I wasn't in the motion yet. What happened here? What's going on with Action Takers Publishing Company? This is like a what was the name of this character? I was running so fast. Flash. Flash.
I love that. That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
I can, every time I see your names, here says Flash.
So what surprised you about all this?
Suddenly I'm being interviewed by somebody else, and then I hear, we're already, that was yesterday, right? And we're bestseller. And I say, what? We didn't launch yet. And this is the magic of being with you girls. You are so amazing. I love you so much. I love you, period. And then I love you besides because of this, because you are so heart driven. And when you say this is going to happen, this will happen, you know, and I love this integrity from you ladies.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you so much. And you love you long time.
Yes, we love, yeah,
Like-
we love each other. This is a date that's been taking forever and I love it. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And I follow you everywhere you go. I don't know. I just woke up and all the songs come here, you know. I will follow you.
Follow you. Follow you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I met Sally not too long ago when we went to Vegas, the three of us together. So what happened in Vegas, stay in Vegas. Don't
That's right,
ask.
the three
We are not gonna
amigas.
share anything else. Yeah. And it was so amazing. I mean, Sally, I feel that I've known you for years. You know,
I know, right?
we had such a great time.
Yeah, you know, I'm curious. Something that surprised me about this particular book, and we're talking about action takers who step up and speak out. But something that really surprised me about this book is that there are some men that share their stories, and sometimes I think we forget that men go through. There are some young boys that go through the same things as young girls do, and it's just sad that, you know, that's happening anywhere in society, whether it's men or women. And so I'm curious if what your experience is, Sylvia, as far as you yourself knowing any men that have gone through any of the either sexual abuse, or like we had Steve on earlier, he was with bullying. We have one of the authors in here that did go through sexual abuse. He's a man. He had, you know, sexual abuse that was conducted on him. I don't know the words to use, performed on him when he was a child. And so curious what your thought is about just that topic right there, you know, sexual abuse, whether it's a young girl or a young boy.
Yeah, that's a never-ending story. Unfortunately, again, women, we started sharing about this not too long ago with the hashtag Me Too movement and all that, but this has been happening for years. But if you think about men, abuse has happened also since, I remember when, I don't know if you saw these movies, Caligula and all those stuff, and abuse started many years ago with the Romans and the Greeks with little boys, you know. But men don't talk about it, because if we think about the culture, you know, men are, if you've been abused, maybe they will confuse you that you're gay or something like that, and it has nothing to do. We have so many misconceptions about men, women abuse, and men usually don't talk about it, and maybe they live a life in misery, or they commit, you know, they die by suicide. So and I heard so many stories about that now, and I'm very grateful for that. Men are started to tell their story, and that's why it's so important that more men step up and share their story of abuse, because there's so many. I can't say that there are as many as girls, but I don't know, you know, because the numbers are still in the shadows. But it is a reality, and the culture doesn't help, you know. Like, man has to be this macho man that takes everything and nobody touch me. And unfortunately, pedophiles are everywhere. The number of pedophiles that we are seeing every single day, everywhere in church, in government, in all that, and in kingdoms, you know, it's like it's overwhelming. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So we need to talk about this. We need to share our story, women, men, because at the end, for many years, I was mad and against men because of my experience. But now we are the same, women and men. We are the same, and we need to, you know, to work together to be able to heal everybody's heart, and also to prevent. Because if we educate men and women, things are gonna be different. It's gonna take us a while still, but you know. Like this book, Stepping Up and Speaking Out, this is the only way. That's what I love this title. I love it because, and it needs courage, you know, it needs all this courage to do it, because it's not easy, but we need to do it not just for us, but for the generations to come.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing that. And I totally agree that, you know, I think that oftentimes because of society that we place men in a certain position, and that it's not fair to them. It really isn't, because We are all human beings, and all human beings do have feelings and emotions. But I think a lot of, especially young boys, are taught, I was taught to suppress mine, but probably nothing like, the boys in my life that were taught, you don't cry, buck up and bear it. Like you just gotta, this is part of life. And like what all these different phrases that people use that make it so that we don't step up and speak out because we have this fear around it that people are going to see us as weak. When the reality, and like you talk about this too, Sylvia, is vulnerability, is when we
Yes.
show up in our vulnerable state. This is actually our greatest strength as human beings, is to be vulnerable when we share this. Now, if you're being made fun of and laughed at, and you're sharing it with the wrong people. So here's the thing, is that there are the right people to share your message with, who will see it for what it really is and who will learn from it and that will grow from it. So Sylvia, when you first started sharing your story, like you mentioned, in this book here, Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out, your family has heard your story many, many times, but there's always something new that they learn. And so what does that feel like to know that, the story continues and that it continues to be seen in a different light from your family?
Well, it seems real because as I keep evolving in my journey to healing, that's a never-ending journey, which that's what I love about this journey. The story keeps evolving, and I continue to work on myself. Like I told you before that I started a journey on breath work a year and a half ago, and during one of the exercise, that was after I wrote this book, this chapter, I realized I was also sexually abused at 5. The image came to me suddenly in one of these breath works, and because I did all this work already, I could heal it in that moment. I think I could heal it. We never know, because many times we think that, oh yeah, I reached this point in my life, and then something else opens, that's great about life, right? So that's what I think, that we keep evolving as our story keeps evolving, and the people that my clients impact me every single day with their stories, and they make me see sometimes even my story from a different point of view. And I love that, because there's not only one way to look at things. Like now we're looking at men, not just women, and that they are also, victims, and not all men are pigs or all men are mean, or, all those things that I used to feel and to think, and this is shifting so much, and we are evolving, that's the way we are supposed to be, right? Evolving every single day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's next for you, Sylvia? What do you got cooking right now? What's on the back burner?
Oh, I got an amazing collaborative book with you ladies. It's called Get Done. I'm not gonna say the word, not because I fear the word, but just in case, we don't want to be banned anywhere. So this is with you ladies. I'm excited because this is can I share a little story?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was part of the first mastermind that Linda started in person. That was much, much before COVID. And it was incredible because we used to go to Linda's home and all share and mastermind. And the mastermind was called Get Done, SHIT, right? And I love it. So for me, being part of this is like, it has this very special place in my heart. So this is, and also I'm writing my own book, and that's gonna be called, I don't even remember because I have another book in mind. And about untold stories about love. It's something like that. I don't remember exactly the name. Probably Linda remembers more the name of my book than
The unloved story.
Yeah, the unloved story. Thank you, Linda. So true stories of unlove, and then I'm working on a collaborative book in Spanish, because I feel that we are not as much represented as people that speaks English, and of course that I'm gonna have your company helping me, because I cannot do it without you girls, and if I want to do it right, that's the thing. So I'm excited about that, giving voice to Hispanic people, and have all this audience in Spanish all over the world, getting also stories like you inspiring me so much, because this is like, we need to reach the world with our message. We need to touch every single heart in the world, every single soul, with the hope that things can be different, can be much better. That's what a book means, and the books that you create this is the thing, that you're touching lives there, and not just the writers, but the readers, because every chapter is about hope. It's not just about a sad story. Every single chapter, every book that you've been published up until today is about hope, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep,
hey,
definitely.
girls, you're making a better world here.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, because your mission is to empower 5 million women and men to share their stories with the world to make a greater impact on the planet. And you just mentioned that word impact. So thank you so much for sharing that. We're talking about the book, Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. And the creator of this whole book is here, Misty Lane. Woo! If it weren't for Misty, this book would not be happening. That is for sure. So Misty, welcome. So good to see you today. I know you had you were able to show up a little bit later today, so we definitely want to get you in the spotlight here. Okay, so
Thank
Sally
you.
and I are sandwiching the two of you. This is perfect. This is perfect.
Yay.
So
Hugs,
Misty,
hugs.
exactly. I would like for you to share with us like how you came up with this, the Action Takers, that's us. We combine forces with the Step Up and Speak Out, which is your message, your mission. And so I would love for you to share a little bit about the whole Step Up and Speak Out thing. Like, what is that all about?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say, Action Takers Publishing, stellar job. Excellent performance, efficient, proficient. Sally and Linda, you make an awesome team. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. All right. So the book, I was traveling around speaking at some conferences that actually kind of came into fruition when I was in, I think I was with you, Linda, in San Francisco, maybe, or San Diego, one of those places, speaking at a conference. And I remember one of the ladies came up to me after I got off stage and she's like, how do you find the courage? Like, how do you talk about those things? Because I'm raw and real. I go into everything that I've grieved through: abortions, rape, addiction, prison. I mean, I don't hold anything back because I feel the only way to help others is to bring awareness so that we can learn to judge less and mentor more and have empathy and compassion and understand these things that maybe not have happened to us, but that are happening to our neighbors, our loved ones. So she came up to me and she said, how do you do this? She's like, I have such a story and I've wanted to tell people. She said, I'm just too embarrassed. I'm too ashamed. And the light just went on in my head. And I thought, I've done it. I have a book, What Goes Up, which is what I say saved my life. Writing that book saved my life, literally. So I thought, what better way than to provide a platform for all these people that have had a silent voice that are ready to step up and help them speak out about their adversity, to show that we can all get on the survival side of adversity. So the plan kind of went into action. I had the thought, and of course I approached Linda, my friend, and here it is today. A year later. It took a while because, life happens, but we're here.
We are here. Oh, I feel like we're in the Brady Bunch right now. Hello. Yeah, hold on. Let me fix that. Okay. There we go. There we go. Oh, that was still Brady Bunch, right? Because it's three. Okay. Oh my gosh. So this, thank you so much for putting this together. And Misty, your story, you tell your story in your book, What Goes Up, which is an incredible story of her journey. So go get that book as well. But today we're here talking about Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out. This is empowering stories today to change a life tomorrow. Absolutely incredible stories. So Misty, I would love for you to share with us, how did you choose the people to participate in this book?
Well, actually, they chose me. I just kind of put some stuff out on social media that I was looking for authors that were ready to find their true, authentic self, that were ready to go through a transformation of self-discovery and for self-forgiveness. And so they started contacting me. And after, sharing a brief conversation with them, and I just took to heart each one of them and realized that God had called me to do this. And I wanted to help them not only get their story out, but to achieve that that notoriety to be able to say they're a best-selling author and to be able to use this as a stepping stone, to have that accolade behind their name so that they can get on stages, that they can write in magazines, that they can do whatever's next for them so that they can make an even bigger impact.
Yeah, that's what I love about these books and what they do for first-time authors is having that platform and having that credibility,
Right.
you know, in a book to say, hey, you know what, I've got a book, I've got this book, you know, I deserve to be on a stage, or I can help you with, you know, with what you're going through. So, you know, so Misty, why don't you just share a little bit about your journey and your story in the book?
So I don't want to go too much in my backstory. That's in the book, What Goes Up. But just sum it up very quickly to get into it. I went from medical school studying to be a surgeon to prison behind a horrific cocaine addiction. Domestic abuse by far has been the hardest part of me in my recovery. Just learning that I am worth something, you know, all the negativity that was cast upon me and believing it. You know, it's been a really hard journey. Oh, I don't want to cry. It's been a really hard journey to learn that I have worth, to learn that my loved ones can forgive me. And most importantly, to learn that I can forgive myself for all the horrible things I did during that addiction, and to know I'm a better person.
Uh-oh, we lost her.
Yes.
She'll be back. But that's a cliffhanger. That's a cliffhanger she's leaving us with. Sylvia, why don't you finish off her cliffhanger? Let's tell her.
Oh my God. I love her so much. I was listening to her and oh my, she's so inspiring. And there's nothing to forgive, you know. We do as much as we can. This is called life and we're learning every single day. I'm emotional right now by listening to her. And I love, because again, everything is so perfect that because of everything that happened for her in her life, look at what she did now, you know, and she's inspiring all of us, and not just us, the 14 writers and the ones that are watching us right now. She's inspiring the world. So, wow.
Yeah.
I'm in awe with this woman. She is so amazing, so powerful.
And being able to bring all those people together and, you know, in one book and share their stories.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, just coming out from this dark place she was and bringing light. But not everybody chooses that, you know. Not everybody in their life is going to do exactly the same. So this is so inspiring.
That's what I love about this, is that it really goes to show that no matter our situation, no matter our past, that we can define a new future. And it just takes us to, again, to step up and speak out. That's really what that's all about. And so, you know, Misty could have, like she, you know, previously, like she had hid behind the addiction. I love how she says that, I hid behind the addiction. And so there's different things that we may have hidden behind in our own lives. And so what is it that makes somebody, like for you, Sylvia, what was it for you that made you decide to go ahead and step up and start speaking out about it? Because prior to that, it was something that you held within yourself. You, at the beginning, you said, you know, you shared with just a couple people here and there, but then for you to like go out and say, you know what, I'm just going to talk about it. What gets you to that point to say that?
Listen to other people's stories, you know, like now I'm listening to Misty, and just hearing what she was saying gives me more purpose in life, because I know this is my purpose, you know, being with people like Misty and help them heal. Like Misty's healing so many right now. Misty, you're amazing. You're more than enough. There's nothing to forgive. You were just learning the living experience. And sometimes, you know, the pains of the soul are so painful that it's so hard not to fall into anything else and start, you know, surviving. So my kudos to you, my love.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing.
Thank you. You as well. Did I go out, or did you hear what I said, or did it cut out?
You cut out like right in the middle of a sentence.
At the end or the beginning of my story?
Oh, it was at the beginning.
Of course. And I said so much.
Oh, you didn't even know you were gone. Oh, it's so funny. It's like you were literally like off the screen.
Oh
there. You
my
were nowhere
gosh.
to be
And I
found.
said so much, and it was such from the heart too. So
Oh my
That's-
gosh. Well, make us cry, girl. Make us cry.
It's raining so bad here right now, and it's a storm, so I'm guessing it's affecting it. But that's what happens. Satan tries to come in and take everything good, and I'm just not going to let him. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
I don't know if you want me to go back into it or just skip it or what you want me to do.
Of course. I mean, you left us with a cliffhanger. So yeah,
Okay.
please.
Where did I leave off? So I know.
You were talking about, you weren't going to tell your whole story, but you wanted to just go into part of the message of just go and tell us.
Oh my gosh, it cut off at the very beginning. Okay,
like-
here we go.
And I had Sylvia continue your story for you.
Part two. Here we go. Okay. I went from medical school studying to be a surgeon to prison behind a cocaine addiction. I was facing a 40-year prison sentence. It was horrific. The things I found myself doing in that addiction that I said I would never do. Addiction's progressive. We all end up doing it one day. I think every challenge I went through, the hardest for me to get through by far has been domestic abuse. With that lifestyle came abuse, rape, just everything you could imagine came with that 10-year addiction with crack cocaine. Being able to learn to love myself and tell myself that I'm worthy and that I have value to give others has been a struggle because my abuser kept me in such a small place and kept my voice so muted that it's been a journey. But I'm here and I thank him today because he's made me very, very strong. And, you got to look at that silver lining in every situation. So I started writing when I was in prison, facing that sentence. I thought my life was over. Just getting up every day and finding the breath to live on was very challenging for me. The survival's guilt, knowing I was in the wrong. So I just had to find something every day to be grateful for, even in a jail cell, find anything I could around me to be grateful for and carry on. And so I started writing, just got pen and paper on commissary, started writing my story. Didn't really intend for it to be a book. It was really therapy for me to just dump everything. That's why I say writing is the therapy that saved my life. Fast forward 8 years later, I had gotten out of prison, blessed to not get a 40-year sentence. I only did 5 years, thankfully. Just rebuilt my life. I was so blessed to earn my family's love. I mean, I didn't always have their love, but to earn their trust and their respect. My colleagues in the medical field to be respected again. It was just such a rewarding thing. And I worked really, really hard for it. But 8 years later, on the exact same day, September 18th, that I had killed someone, my first grandbaby was due. And she got stuck in the birth canal and came out with a severe brain injury. So Eliana was blind and deaf. She couldn't suck or cry or even hold her own body temperature. And I blamed myself. I let the devil convince me that it was my punishment and it was my fault. And I couldn't get close to her. I just shut down and I could feel the darkness coming over me again. And that's when I realized that God saved me through 10 years of hell so that I could have my voice. Eliana didn't have hers, but I could have mine. So I knew it was time for me to step up and speak out. I took the writings from prison. I turned them from anger and blame into accountability and forgiveness. And I learned to love myself. I learned to forgive myself. I learned to forgive others. And I just got out on God's mission to start spreading empathy and compassion and education and awareness so that we could judge less and mentor more in the world. We don't know until we're in those shoes what we will do. So it's real easy for us to judge others. And my big thing is, be that one. Don't judge. Educate yourself about it and see how you can be of service to that person. So my journey has been to step up and speak out with full transparency. And I have to give Jason Cisneros, my mentor, credit here because he taught me how to be transparent. He taught me to let go of that fear of judgment. He taught me to let go of that shame and that guilt. And he showed me what being transparent looked like. And I just went on a mission to be raw and real. I don't hold anything back in any of my writings. If you've read any, especially in What Goes Up, it's pretty raw. I cover, abortions, domestic abuse, rape, just everything you can imagine that goes along with that lifestyle. So here I am today. I'm hoping to serve others and help them understand and find that liberation that comes with transparency as they transform through their writing journey.
Yeah, it's that whole thing, the empowering stories to change a life tomorrow. So, and you're sharing that. So, we are so grateful to you. And we talked earlier on what a journey getting this book out has been, I mean, we've been working on this for a very long time.
Yes.
And so, what has surprised you in the process of putting this all together? Has there been any surprises? Have there been anything that you've learned on the journey of creating this collaboration book?
I definitely learned it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Yes, it took a long time because life happens to all of us. Sometimes I feel like I have that dark cloud over me all the time because I feel like things just bombard my way, but it's okay because they're all learning experiences. What I've learned is the authors that committed to this, a lot of them are new authors and they'd never written. And it was a very emotional process for some of them to get through. And I held their hand and I helped them get through it and helped them learn how to write with inspiration instead of writing a story about me, writing a story about this is what happened, but how it can serve someone else. And so that takes time. And for each one of the authors, that timeline looked differently. And I wasn't going to cut someone off that was making a transformation. Myself included, all of this, putting together collaboration with people, it was emotional for me, hearing all the stories and helping them through it. And just with my own life, things getting in my way. So I just want to say it's not about the destination. It's definitely for me about the journey and the wisdom you can pick up along the way.
Yeah, I love that. So what is the response been on this book from your family and friends and people that have, read your stories or read your book? What has been their response to you?
Honestly, the thing I hear the most is resiliency and courage. Because I am so transparent, a lot of people come back at me with, "Oh my gosh, how do you tell that to people?" And, "Oh my gosh, how do you keep going with all these things that are happening to you?" My family's very proud of me. Spent 10 years on the streets with drugs and missed a lot in my kids' lives. They are a blessing to me, very big blessing. They're very supportive and loving. They will do anything for me. They stand alongside me. My daughter runs my Tween Esteem Kids Camp with me. It's just been incredible, their response and their support, and just other people that know me to see how I'm helping others transform and how any collaboration book can help others step into who they are and learn to transform. It's just been incredible.
I'm curious from both of you, if you could share with us, throughout this journey of you stepping up into the spotlight, because that's what you both have done. You've stepped up into the spotlight. Like, what has that journey been like for you? Was this something that you ever imagined that you would do? And if it isn't, like, I just want to hear that journey. So Sylvia, if you can share with us, what has that been like for you to step into the spotlight? And it's about whatever that means for you,
Oh my, I love that. Your questions are always amazing. For me at the beginning, it was a little hard. I love the stages. I'm a singer, so, like you, I love the stages. But this was different because it was about me putting myself out there. And it's a transformation. I evolved. And at the beginning was about, okay, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Am I saying the right message? But today it's all about giving and having my presence 100%. To inspire others. I'm on service. And, this is, for me, the best moment of my life. I feel better now, more alive than when I was 30. And it's all about being in service, 100%, all of me.
Does it ever, I'm not sure the word I'm picking the word scare, but I don't know if that's the right word. But does it ever scare you to get out there and share your message from your heart?
Yeah, every time.
Okay.
Every time it's like my husband, he's a musician and a singer, always said, if you don't feel scared, you're not giving your best. So it's like every time I feel this voice inside my head, but it's just like when you sing, it's the first song, and then after that you are engaged with the audience. Here is the same. It's just the first couple of words, and then I'm putting my heart out. And when I myself in my presence, in service, this is precious that I could achieve it, and I'm grateful to all my teachers and everything in my life that I could reach this point, that it's just being myself, vulnerable in front of everybody and giving it all.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm there with you on that. And so, so Misty, I'd love to hear from you when you started stepping up and speaking out. You mentioned Jason Cisneros, who I know as well. He's an amazing coach. And so you mentioned him, but when you first started, stepping up and speaking out and sharing your message, with your voice, actually getting out there, what did you experience through that process?
I'll never forget it. I was at an Eric Swanson, as you know him as well, event. And I entered a speakers competition, and we had, I think, literally 2 minutes to speak on the stage. And Chris Salem and Dom Fawcett had kind of helped coach me in how to speak. I'd never spoken my story out loud before to anyone on a stage. So I got up and I spoke my story, true from the heart, scared to death, and was so afraid of what people were going to think about me. That's all I cared about. It wasn't about the message. It wasn't about how's this going to help somebody else. It was about, oh my gosh, what are they going to think of me? And when I got off that stage, a lady just came up and threw her arms around me and told me, she thanked me for sharing, because her mother was a crack addict and had died. And she had hatred in her heart because she never understood the other side of it. And I'll never forget that feeling of, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. You might not have the right words, but you know what? You're going to have the right words for the right people in the language that they need to hear it at the right time. And that's something I've learned throughout my speaking, is it doesn't have to be perfect. It's fluid. It can change. There's someone there that you're supposed to serve, and it's just going to come out the way it's supposed to and the way it should. And that was a proud day. I actually won that speaking competition, and it definitely motivated me to move forward. And, learning that it's not about us anymore. We've already survived. We're the authority on it now. Learning that it's about the next person. And that's kind of hard to do. It's hard. It's hard to get that focus that's been on us for so long and try to learn to do it in a way that it serves.
What I love about that is it reminds me of something that Les Brown says, and that's, don't let what you want to say get in the way of what the audience needs to hear. And this is where that fear of judgment shows up, is when we're so worried, like, Sylvia, you mentioned that, Misty, you're like, what are they going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? The reality is that, they're either not thinking about you or they're listening intently for what they can get from you. Like, what can I learn here? And so I know when he said that to me, I was like, oh, that's it. Like, I just need to show up and not worry about like what anybody thinks about me. I mean, that's all it takes. Like, so cool. So it's sometimes harder said than done, but I mean, harder done than said. But it really, shines light on that it's not about us. It's about our message. And that's why, we all show up transparently. Transparency is necessary, which is one of Misty's sayings. And I love that saying. It's so awesome. And yes, Misty, I know all your sayings because they're so incredible. And, and showing up, you're showing up from that place, that place of who are you really? Who are you really deep down inside? Because it's through our vulnerability that is our greatest strength. And it's through that strength, when we can show up vulnerably, that we're able to connect, make those connections with other people. Something I like to say, it's our relation points that create our relationships. So if I'm not sharing from a place of vulnerability, I don't have any connections to the other people. So I truly believe it's necessary. As she says, vulnerability is necessary. And so showing up as that person. But I just want to congratulate you both. We have, action takers who step up and speak out, empowering stories today to change a life tomorrow. And Misty, I saw you leaned in. There's something you wanted to say. Please do.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it's great for us to serve others, and we get hung up on that. but it's also very important we serve ourselves. And that's something that I've had to really take a step back from serving others the last couple of years. Taking care of my parents now as they've aged, I've had to move them in and other things have happened. So I just want to remind everyone, there's all different ways you can serve. It doesn't have to be flying all over the world speaking. It doesn't have to be putting out book after book after book after book or running a TV show. I had to let go of my TV show. It's about taking care of us and serving those that we can with the reach we have when we have it.
Oh, I love that. Such an important message for sure. So I wanted to just ask one final question of all four of us. Let's do it from all four of us, because, showing up here today, like what we're all about, the message that we're, getting out there into the world. And so I'm going to start with Sally. So Sally, I would love for you to share with us, like, what's the message that you want the audience to walk away from? You've been listening to the interviews. You yourself have not shared your story in this book, but you're in many other books. And so Sally, would love for you to share, what is your message for people to walk away with today?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing I've been hearing through all of these interviews today is to not let your fear stop you. Don't worry about what other people are going to say or think about you. Just step up and take those risks and do something that scares you, that's going to propel you in a different direction. So I think that's huge, because a lot of people just get stuck in that, just doing what's necessary, or just living, paying the bills and cleaning the house and going to work, and that's it, and so it's, what do you want out of your life, figuring that out and going after it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sally. Sylvia, go and unmute yourself and share with us, what's the message that you want the audience to take away today?
I want the audience to know that your past does not define you at all. Your past is just this fire inside that can take you forward and reach your dreams. And sometimes even your dreams that you're dreaming right now are not the latest dreams. Sometimes it's like your life can be absolutely crazy, beautiful, amazing, full of love and appreciation, and like we were talking about before, being transparent, being yourself, because you are a gift to the world. No matter what, you're always a gift to the world just by being yourself. So that's my message.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sylvia. And Misty, what message do you want the audience to walk away with today?
Let your story today change a life tomorrow. I want the readers of this book to feel inspired, motivated, compassionate, loved. And I want to encourage anyone that's read the book to share it with others, because that's how we spread the love, is by sharing. And don't, like the others have said, don't let fear stop you. Don't let your past rob your future. It's time to step up and speak out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Another one, don't let your past rob your future. I love that one as well. She's got a lot of different sayings that she says, check her out. And what I'm going to share today is, that proverbial comfort zone that we live in. And comfort zone isn't always comfortable. The comfort zone is just a place that we kind of revert back to. A lot of times it's because we're in fear that we move back into our comfort zone. So what would happen in your life? Imagine your life if you spent it stepping outside of that comfort zone. What actually happens is it enlarges. The size of our comfort zone gets bigger and bigger and bigger, until one day we're like, you know what, there's no zone. It's open. And so it's time for us to step out, step into the fear. As I think it was Shelley mentioned earlier today, she was talking about, going through the storm, that buffalo actually run to the storm. But as human beings, a lot of times we retreat. There's the storm, I got to retreat. What if you ran into that storm? What if you stepped through that comfort zone? What if you blasted right through it? And then you were to step up and speak out and share your story from a place, from your heart, because it's through your story that you're going to impact somebody else's life. Somebody is out there waiting for you to tell your story. It's time to step up, speak out, share your message, share your story, and make a greater impact on the planet. Woo! Ladies, this has been fantastic. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love it. Everybody go out, buy your copy of Action Takers Who Step Up and Speak Out, Empowering Stories Today to Change a Life Tomorrow. Go to actiontakerspublishing.com/step up Get your copy of the book. Go buy that Kindle version. Go buy the print version. Just buy the version of the book. As well as when you head over to our website there, you're going to see that there are free gifts that some of the authors have given. So please cash in on those free gifts as well. Everybody have an amazing, amazing day. And here's to another successful launch by Action Takers Publishing. This has been so much fun. And with that, I'm going to end it with our favorite commercial. Everybody have a great day. See ya.